Good evening, good evening, good evening to the members of the loyal opposition. What a pleasure for us to welcome you to this another Marcia Week show. My goodness, the time is just flying by so quickly. It's just like we're going from one show to the next, to the next, to the next. It's almost like we're having a show every night. But that is the way time is really going by. It's flying by really fast. So, we just want to welcome you to this another show tonight. Of course, we are looking forward to Marcia rejoining us later on this week, and she's concluded. They've concluded their presentations in Trinidad, and they'll be making their way home very shortly. But we are so happy to have you with us tonight, all of you that are joining in with us. And I was particularly blessed last night with those of you that are joining us from the United Kingdom. To join us from Philadelphia or Brooklyn or so on, I think it's just about the same time and maybe about an hour's difference. But then to see the number of you that are joining us from the United Kingdom, the 4 or 5 hours ahead of us, think it would be 11 o'clock there now. I'm not sure in terms of daylight saving time, if it would be or if it's now 5 hours ahead. But I must say that I am so blessed to see the commitment and the tenacity that you have to the show, that you are in the UK and you are joining us. And that is really amazing. So good night to you. Good night to you, Vernon. Um, and that would be Junie Rock. Now, I promise to make a note of these names as I progress through the evening, because when you make your inputs and so on, I want to make sure I don't leave you out. So, Junie, it's good to have you joining us from the UK. Wow. And Anika, good rising to all. I like that. Good rising to all. Lucinda Aline, good evening to you as well. Noel, wow, I don't know, Noel. I'm going to just leave that for now. Queen Bee, good evening to you as well. I appreciate you liking and sharing, and I want to encourage all of us to do likewise. Like and share as well. Good evening to you, Mildred and Bajan Boy. Monica Ince, good night to you as well. Dale Rail, blessed good night to you. And Ryan Rock, great to have you all with us this evening. Joy and Faith and Romeo Hinkson, good night to you. Marcia, of course. If I ever did a show and you weren't there, I don't know if I would do this show. That's the truth. And, because you're the one that keeps me on my toes right here at the beginning. Marcy, it's really good to have you this evening. Owen Hines, locked on from Philadelphia, and Cecilia Miller. Good evening to you as well. Good evening, Judy Jill. It's a pleasure to have you. Now that's a interesting that's an interesting way to spell Maxine McLean and Nichols. I've never seen it done like that, Judy, but thanks a million. I'm going to make a note of that, so that I can have an adjustment made to it. Let me just make sure I get uh, I get a couple of people noted here, because I do want to make sure that I include you in whatever efforts we have tonight in terms of putting up the comments that you make. Just looking for that, right. Owen, right. I want to make sure I have you, Owen, from Philadelphia. Thank you so very much for being with us tonight. Don't mind my little hoarseness. I've been doing a lot today. Born again at 48. Good to have you. Nonconformist, wonderful to you as well. Jefferson Sobers, good night to you. And Sir Alfred. Sir Alfred, from the time I've been on, Sir Alfred, you have been here with us, and all of the others who are so committed from the New York and Brooklyn area. Thank you so very much, Sir Alfred, for being here with us again tonight. Erwin Nurse, I'm going to make a note with for you as well, so that when I see any of the comments, I can put them up and don't miss you. Taroni Hall, a big shout out to you. Pardon me, forgive me for that. Vocal stuff. Good night to you as well, Beverly Prescott. Just giving a few more of you the opportunity to join us as well tonight, before we kick off the show. We are going to be touching on some of the things we touched on last night because, boy, I tell you, last night was an explosive revelation. Kmart just blew us out of the water with all of that information to do with the sewage project. And of course, we are also looking for the answers uh, to the whole project. And I was preparing, I prepared the show for tonight, and on that I had first it was a $60 million hopeless situation. Then we added an $84 million mess. After we get bowled for 50 million, what next? It just seems that every day, and we talked about it when we concluded the show last night before we went to bed. We talked about how almost every blessed night, every day, there's something else coming up, and I tell you, it's just amazing. It is just like if this administration is hell bent on being problematic, and I don't know. We'll get around. That's one of the reasons that I really feel that one of the amendments to the Republican Constitution has got to facilitate fixed elections, one, and also, and I'm going to repeat this later on for those who may have missed it, and also setting mechanisms in place so that we can go as the people to the president and request of her to call a general election. Positions must be facilitated. So good night to you, Hasbra, Smiling Butterfly. Such a great night to be back with you again tonight. Sandra Watkins, Adrian Hines. Adrian, it's always good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, Adrian. We really appreciate your input as well. Thank you, Adrian Bascom Lemuel. Tell, Adrian Hines. I'm speaking to you particularly. You are a resource area as well, because I see your comments and I really thank you for your input into the show each night. Janitha Calendar, greetings from St. Philip West. Thank you again for joining us as well, Janitha. Remiem 6070. I agree. Like and share far and wide. Of course, Desholin. I tell you, I am going to get that right one day, Clive. Great to have you as well. Yeah, Clive, I know their list is long. Marva Hunt, good evening to you. Rosemary Lane, mind your business. No, I don't mean mind your business, Rosemary. I'm referring to somebody who is commenting here on the show. It's so good to have all of you with us tonight. We're up to 275, 8 minutes after 7. So I'm going to prep Dave to get that national anthem ready for us so that we can, we can get going on the show. Adrian, again, Adrian, we'll talk about that on the show, man. We'll talk about that on the show. There's got to be something we do about it. We talk about this money like it is $100 million, and listen, it's $194 million, and there's just the ones we talked about last night. Nigel, good night to you too. Lemuel Tull, Pauline Maynard, great to have all of you with us. And listen, let's put our hands together down by our sides and let's have the national anthem of Barbados so we can get this show on the road. So, Dave. Amen, 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 amen. The strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. Ladies and gentlemen, our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. And I want to remind you again tonight we pledge allegiance to our country and to our flag. We thank God for the organizations that give us opportunity to do so, but those organizations are not who our pledge should be. Our pledge must be to the well being of our country and to the sovereign identity that our flag represents. And that is why, to a large degree, I take it very seriously when, and as a matter of fact, I think Caswell has already informed us that while I don't think it is criminal, I believe it is not considered to be a legal act, and I will let him correct me when he comes on to disfigure our flag in any way, shape, or form. You really can't use it for shirts and headbands and all that kind of thing. And you certainly shouldn't use it to bury it on a coffin in a grave site anywhere on the planet. Okay, that should never have happened. And any leader of a country that desecrates a sovereign symbol to that degree should consider resigning from their position because they have already disrespected their country and their countrymen. And I take that very seriously. I've observed, as I've mentioned before, I've watched the pictures with American servicemen coming home, having been killed. They're coming home in their casket. Their caskets are draped in the beautiful American flag. That casket goes to the grave site, and as it is by the grave site where it is going to be buried, you see those four soldiers take the flag at the four corners and so meticulously fold it. And then, as they fold it, one of them takes it and presents it to the family of the fallen soldier, the fallen hero. That is the respect that our flag carries. Okay, it should drape the caskets of our prime ministers when they pass away and be equally folded and given to the family. I'll say to you, Ricker, if you don't want to be on the show, that is your prerogative. But if you're here, we are anti anything relative to Barbados. If Motley falls into that category, then we are anti Motley, and we make no apologies for that. If you're not comfortable with that, then I recommend that you leave the show. And I'm very straight on that. I don't understand how people who are not in agreement with what we're doing come on and then try to tell us a lot of nonsense when we're here. We accommodate it and we facilitate it because we are a democratic show. But there does come a time where I will address the matter from time to time, and I make no apologies for that because I will not permit anyone to be disrespectful to this show or the people on this show or anyone else that is going to be here. So let us keep it civil. And if you have something to say in defense of your party, Ricker, if that's what you are supporting, then put it in the chat and let's get rid of this childish approach. These matters pertaining to the politics of Barbados simply have to change. We cannot be blind followers following no matter what. And I am no longer the only person I'm committed to solely without any reservation, whose party I will never change, is the Lord Jesus Christ. He's the only person that I will remain committed to. But I am not going to be committed to any political party that does not put the interests of Barbados paramount and to the forefront and does not having campaign. And Dave, I'm going to ask you to run that clip for me with Santia Bradshaw speaking at that public meeting in a moment. I know you're going to get it queued up when they were running in 2018 and chastising and criticizing the previous administration for a lack of transparency and accountability. And they spoke of having integrity legislation on the books within 100 days of coming to government. And we are now nearly 5 years I'm not sure if it's that one. I think she was speaking, Dave, on a public platform, a BLP platform. I'm not sure if this one will be the right one, but I'll listen to it and see. But that was the commitment running in the 2018 general election, that they would have integrity legislation on the books. And that is what we have not yet seen. We have not seen that. All right. And so let us if you want to say something here, make sure you come here with the facts. Make sure if you're going to come to defend, you can bring even your politicians and parliamentarians here on this show and let them defend their record. Let them defend their activity and action. We are not going to deny that. This is an open platform where you can express and share. You do have freedom of exploration and expression. Ricker, that is absolutely true, but let's keep it civil and let's not degenerate into anything that's not going to be acceptable. We do have a standard here, while the Labour Party doesn't have any. So let's keep it proper here on the program. I know there'll be other people there on the show that will be watching and carefully addressing that matter. But I want to speak to that right now, because there's one thing, you can lead a horse. I saw this recently today. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can lead a person to truth, but you can't make them accept it. And that's the problem we're having here in Barbados at this particular point in time. I'm not sure if that's the clip, Dave, but let's run that clip and let me see if, as I listen to it, if that's the clip I wanted. But it was actually, I think, she was speaking on a Barbados Labour Party political platform, with the podium in front of her, and she had made a commitment of the party to the establishing of a integrity legislation. Let me see. I think it's this one that I'm going to pull up here.
We have had a situation where this administration came to public life, telling the people of this country that they were going to introduce integrity legislation. Y'all remember that? That they were going to hold themselves accountable to the people of this country. That they were going to stamp out corruption in high places.
I want you to hold on to this statement. It's going to be really important throughout this video. Remember what she's saying: personal accountability and the stomping out of corruption from the highest levels of government.
Time comes because the Barbados Labour Party has come out front and we have brought a draft integrity legislation bill. We are not waiting till we get to Parliament to hold our members to account, or to let you then have to talk with us to talk about whether we are putting corruption legislation in place. We have taken it on ourselves to ensure that we are going to be held accountable to the people of this country.
This was at the time member of the House of Assembly, Sania Bradshaw, on March 5, 2018 at Montgomery Pasture St. Michael, one of her campaign rallies. Without a hint of irony, in all of her righteous indignation, she stands before you today as the Deputy Prime Minister who vaingloriously declared the Barbados Labour Party is taking the charge against corruption with the Integrity in Public Life Act. I'm here to tell you, to this day, 5 years on from this very campaign rally, it is not proclaimed. It still cannot be used to hold those in positions of power accountable, despite the fact that it has passed both the House and Senate. So we're asking, as concerned members of the public, Deputy Prime Minister, what's the hold up? In a 30-0 majority within Parliament, what excuse does she have? What can she affirm to you as the reason for this, other than personal interest?
And that is the situation that we find ourselves in this country today, where people are asking legitimate questions about whether there is one rule for people in high places and people in low places. And that madness has to stop in this country. And the Barbados Labour Party has given you the assurance that we will be governed as members of an administration to stamp out corruption.
Did you hear all of that? I haven't even finished the video. Let me make a couple of references. We are not waiting until we get to Parliament to establish integrity legislation. We have taken it to ourselves. That was in 2018. We are now 6 years on, and there is no integrity legislation passed in the House, in the Senate, that we are aware of. And I see Caswell in the waiting room, and I'm going to bring him in early. Caswell, if that's all right with you, I want to bring you in early because I know you have a lot to share with us tonight. And I'm just going to touch on this and move on because I want to give you the space to address the matters of severance. But Caswell, you will recall that speech that I just played. I don't know if you happen to get any of it as I was playing it just now. Good
No,
evening to you, and please greet the loyal opposition before we even get into it.
yeah, good evening, Ferdy, and good evening, everybody who's on tonight. And I'm very happy to be here sharing with you again tonight. I consider it an honor that you would listen to me. As a matter of fact, I went to town today. I had a case in town, and on my way walking, I have a park and walk to the place. People stop me and ask me things on the show and want me to repeat certain things that I said. So
Oh,
I'm
goody.
happy that people are listening. And
Wonderful. Wonderful.
twice today, some people just now was walking the dogs, and some person stopped to ask me about their pension and stuff. So I promised I will deal with a bit of pensions too, because pensions when you're going home too. So all
Yes,
time
yes.
same thing. So I'm happy that people are listening, and that I'm not wasting my time. So I'm grateful for that, and thank you very much. I'm humbled. That people will want to listen to me. Yeah,
Well,
but
I
to what
can
you
I
were
can
just
tell
showing
you
just now.
I can tell you from the comments that I have been seeing during the show, and I know sometimes when you're rolling into what you're speaking, you don't always see them, but I can tell you the number of people that are so grateful for what you share on the show pertaining to employment, dismissal, pensions, NIS. It's just absolutely amazing. I consider you to be an encyclopedia, and I don't even know encyclopedia of what, because you cover so many areas that it's almost like we could all ask you any question pertaining to those areas, and you're able to respond and tell us the legislation, not your opinion, but the legislation. And that is what I really respect, Caswell. Honestly, it's an honor for me, to be honest with you, to be on the show with a stalwart such as yourself, a person who has been in the political arena for years, has come up through the ranks, and I tell you, blessing to have you on the show. But I was just playing that caption because I'm going to come right to you so you can go in. But I just wanted to finish, this thing as well, that it's not troubling me, but because you could tell from the way we ended last night that I done making fun with these people. I'm getting serious, and I'm not pulling any more punches. These people promise so much. This is a March the 5th speech that Santia made on the Montgomery Pasture 2018, in which she said they were not waiting until they got to Parliament. They will have legislation on the books within 100 days. We've taken it to ourselves. And she talked about people asking legitimate questions. And we are asking legitimate questions. And we have people even here on the show that have the audacity to talk about here we go again after Motley. No, we are asking legitimate questions, and we are approaching it the same way the Barbados Labour Party approached it in 2018, asking questions of the then government. And here we are today asking the same questions, Caswell, of this government that they were asking of the past administration, in which they had committed themselves not to be in the same position. And this is dealing on matters of integrity and corruption. So I know I'm scared sometimes to bring you in when I am talking about these things, because I know you're a firebrand when it comes to this foolishness, and I want you to be on your p's and q's with the severance and all of that. So I don't want you to let me distract you with the
No, but it's
process
not a
of all of
distraction,
this.
Freddie. It's not a distraction, but I'm glad that you raised that this evening, because I have been complaining about that for a long time. I remember that speech. Good night, Bim is my home. You know,
Yes.
I remember I was in the Senate when they had some attempts to pass integrity legislation. I told them then, during my contribution, I said it will not see the light of day because you fellas in here gonna get rich first because most of them came and they were paupers, you know. They may have a lot of people and they have a lot of money that you have. You have Dale Marshall, those guys that had money. And from their law practice, Dugard, he had money from his father's will, and he earned substantial amounts as in real estate and his practice. There are very few others that had anything. Some of them were unemployed. Some of them were barely employed, and some of them are unemployable. So I told them, this is not going to pass. This is just because we had an integrity legislation bill that passed under Frendel, and they didn't put it on. It passed in 2017. And they would say, oh, that ain't good enough. We can do it better. Now, my thing would have been, okay, you got one, use it, and then if you want, you got some little things to tweak it. No, but they said, no, we have one, we got one, we can do it within 100 days. They passed one. But to this day, it is passed, you know. But to this day, they have not brought it into force. So it is like you ain't got none. And they are continuing to do what they like. How they like. All these contracts. Like you see Kimara talking about and stuff. And from back in Richie Haynes' days, talking about having a contractor general and stuff. No, you pick up the phone and call one of your friends and say, well, I want you to do A, B, and C. You get $7,550, you know, $7,500 to help out your constituents in Christmas gifts. And if even that was against the law, because there is a Prevention of Corruption Act and there's an Integrity of Public Life Act on the books, but not passed, but not enforced. The Prevention of Corruption Act, and thanks to one of the people on the show, because I was in the House when it was being debated, but I don't know it was brought into force. It was brought into force since 2021, and they are still acting as though it isn't there. So they pass laws to regulate themselves and ignore it because they wouldn't have been able to collect $7,500. And I can tell you, there was more than one check for $7,500. Let me tell you why I say that. You remember the Deputy Prime Minister saying the money was used to buy hampers for her constituents for Christmas. Everybody in Barbados should remember that. But that can't be true if there was only one $7,500 check because the police got that one. So if one was cash and used for hampers, there must have been at least two. Yeah, because the police got one. Don't forget the police got one in evidence that the guy tried to tender it at the bank. The bank had a little suspicion, called the police, he locked up. That is evidence. Never spent. But one was spent according to her. So unless she was getting a series of $7,500 checks from this man, something is wrong. These are things that we need to find out about. These are things that we must be able to know if our politicians are corrupt. And the way we are hearing it, let me see. It's carbon servants. That's supposed to tell us when the staff and we're doing it by the holiday. I gotta leave it at thank you. You know, so right now they accuse everybody of corruption, but themselves. But their acts, if you look at what they're doing, they look corrupt. I'm not calling anybody a thief. I'm not calling anybody corrupt. I said it looks so to me. It appears so. You know, the stuff it walks like a duck and it quacks and thing, you know. It's not chicken. But this thing looks like corruption. And you owe it to the people of Barbados to explain these things. You are our servants. You say so. The law requires that you elected to serve us. So don't tell me, you know, that you come in here. Oh, you remember you are our servants only when you on the campaign trail and you tell people, I'm here to serve you. And as soon as the returning officer stand up on the front step of whatever polling station, counting station, he's out and say, I declare that so and so is elected, you stop being servant, you're a master again. We got to stop this thing, but people worry about severance. There's some aspects.
Yeah, I was just about to say absolutely, because I'm interested to hear about severance. You know, one of the things, Gavs, unfortunately that nobody can sever me because I look after myself, praise God. But there are so many people out there, Caswell, that do not know.
There's another reason why they can't sever you. You're 67.
Not yet. Next month. Next month.
You know? So if you are 67 years old,
right,
they cannot sever you. Well, they can sever you, but you're not entitled to severance pay. However, if they do it in such a way that you can file a complaint with the chief labor officer because one, they discriminated against you, or they fire you unfairly, then you have a case for fair dismissal. I represented an old lady who got dismissed at, I think, 72 or 75. They called her in one day and said, you know, you passed retirement age ever since, so we gonna let you go tomorrow. Her son brought her to me, and I said, but that's unfair dismissal because she worked for a number of years, 13 or 14 years. And there is a schedule in the Employment Rights Act, not a schedule, but a section in the Employment Rights Act that tells you if you are going to terminate somebody, you have to give them adequate notice, and you have to give them notice. And the people, and I think people better listen to this very carefully. When you get a job, they give you a job letter, a contract, or a statement of employment particulars, whatever they give you. That letter should say that your retirement age is 65, it is 60, it is whatever. Or there is a practice in the workplace that people go home at 66 or 67, as the case may be. Now, if none of those exist, you don't have a retirement age, and you can work to 1,000 if you live so long. And that is the reasoning I use in the case for that lady, and it prevailed because, mind you, I could have also claimed age discrimination because you can't discriminate against somebody on the basis of their age. But I didn't have to do that because the dismissal was already automatically unfair. You got to give people adequate notice. Section 22, I think it is, of the Employment Rights Act. I'll check it, but double check for you. Section 22. Yeah, it's Section 22. It says the notice required to be given by an employer to terminate the contract of employment of an hourly, daily, or weekly paid employee who has been continuously employed for 1 year or more is not less than 1 week's notice where the period of continuous employment of the employee is less than 2 years. 2 weeks notice where the period of continuous employment of the employee is 2 years or more, but less than 5. 4 weeks notice where the period of continuous employment of the employee is 5 years or more, but less than 10. And 6 weeks notice if the period of continuous employment of the employee is 10 years or more, but less than 15. And 10 weeks notice where the period of continuous employment of the employee is 15 years or more. So they just can't come and tell you, depending on how long you work, I gave you notice. And as I said last week, this act now, the Employment Rights Act, has changed a few things. Because once under the Severance Payment Act, they could give you 2 weeks notice and sever you. But now if they sever you and give you 2 weeks notice, it becomes unfair dismissal. And it's to your benefit if they unfair you and send you home with just that limited amount of notice, because if you're a long-standing employee, you're entitled to more money for unfair dismissal. But what happens if they give you severance pay and it is also unfair dismissal? The fifth schedule of the Act requires that they deduct the amount of severance from the payment for unfair dismissal, so you would get the excess. So let's say you were entitled to $20,000 for severance, but they unfairly dismiss you, and you were entitled to 25, you will get the other 5,000, right? So it's always best to check to see if the severance that they give you or how they sever you is in accordance with the law, because they might end up paying more. And the law is Section 31 of the Employment Rights Act. Now, this act provides that if they terminate your services for purpose of redundancy, and they can. And a redundancy is a fair dismissal if they do it correctly. Right? First of all, if they are sending home 10% of the workforce or some significant number, then there's a process that you must go through. You have to go through a process where there's consultations, and those consultations should commence not later than 6 weeks before anybody goes home. Right? So they just can't come and tell you, I'll be serving you next week if it is more than 10% or some significant number. Like I had a case, I told you about this before, where this guy sent home one person. It was unfair dismissal because that one person was more than 10%, because he had 8 workers. So there's no way he could have sent home anybody unless he go through the process of the act. Now his union, because the Barbados Employers Confederation is a union of employers. You know, workers can have unions and employers can have unions. And in the case of the Barbados Employers Confederation, that is the trade union for employers. They argued that in England, you got to lock about 20 people before you can do that. This is not an English statute. So you must follow the Barbados law. You see, the English, under the Interpretation Act of Barbados, Cap 1 of the laws of Barbados, the common law of England is the common law of Barbados. But this is not common law, this is statute. So if you have a statute, you must obey the statute. And this has been passed in Parliament, both houses of Parliament, signed by the Governor General at the time. So it is the law. So if they don't do it correctly, then it is thing. The consultations, though, should result. There should be, and the consultations gonna be meaningful. They're gonna be trying to help you look for work, or trying to find a way to cushion the effects of the termination. Now, if they don't do that, the severance, even though they might have grounds or be able to claim that you are entitled to be paid redundancy, if they don't do it in accordance with the Employment Rights Act, it is unfair dismissal. So all of the conditions now for severance pay is no longer in the Severance Payments Act and in its regulations. You will find some of them in the Employment Rights Act. So that is why sometimes you have to, when you read in these documents, you have to read them together. You got to read one and then check the other to make sure, because statutes impact on another. I'll give an example of madness that the government did. Right, the government amended the Holidays with Pay Act, right, and not amended it. They repeal and replace it, because the act in 2017, that act just needed minor amendments, but it was one of the Grantley Adams statutes. You know, Grantley Adams put on the books. So what they did, they put back almost everything that Grantley Adams had, and then put in a few minor changes I know saying it's our act that passed in 2017. So Grantley Island ain't got nothing to do with this now. So I then look when the history is written and people start investigating the Holidays Repair Act, they will say, no, this is something that the government did in 2017. What the government did was just to repeat what Grantley Islands passed back in the 50s, 1951 or 52, I think it was 52. So, but that act, so when they put that act in place, they did something that most people do not know and do not understand. I don't understand why they would have done it. Because they then put a schedule in the Holidays Repair Act. And that schedule amended the Employment Rights Act. So if you don't know that the complaints, for instance, that there must now be in writing to the Chief Labor Officer. If you don't know that, the employer would say, but no, it's no longer against the law. You know, so you can't bring a case against me because you ain't put nothing in the writing. So what the Labor Department has been doing, they have been giving you a form and recording your information and then ask you to sign it. That has sufficed in some instances. But people did not know that it happened. Fortunately for me, when I saw this Holidays Repair Act, I went through it, and then I was able then to cut out the pieces. If you look, you will see I cut them out and stick them in and I stick them in mine so that I will know that the law actually changed. So when I'm reading it, you would not forget that they made changes and they did not amend the act by an Employment Rights Amendment Act. They put it in the Holidays Repair Act, which don't make a lot of sense. And especially when you're dealing with, and I'll tell you something, even lawyers don't know that, and it is very hard because they have not updated the laws of Barbados for years. They made several amendments, and if you go and ask anybody to buy any of the statutes that in place, you will not find the amendments in them. You could go to court and argue something, and then when you finish arguing, somebody said, but no, they got an amendment that you look like a fool. Because they have not done so. They have not even they have not even published Hansard. Hansard is the verbatim record of speeches in the House or in Parliament, House and Senate. In England, Hansard is available by 8 o'clock the next day. The last time they published Hansard, relax. The last time they published Hansard in Barbados, Roy was the speaker. Yeah, you look shocked.
Wait. Hold on, Caswell. The last time they published Hansard in Barbados, Roy was the speaker?
Roy was the speaker.
But wasn't that under the Adams regime?
No, Roy was under Arthur.
Arthur?
Yeah.
You mean when all right, let me leave that. Let me let you go ahead. That's a joke.
I tell you, I keep telling you, I keep saying on this show that Parliament is a parody of what a Parliament should be. It's like a skit of what should really happen in Parliament. Just to demonstrate the point, I made it last week when Lisa Cummings got up and interrupted Senator Watson. Senator Watson did not break any rule of the Senate. Then Liz Thompson got up and berated her as well. And for a long time, all that was doing is to interrupt her so she would lose her train of thought. And the clock don't stop running she has an hour to speak. If you get up and talk for 10 minutes, they don't say, well, I don't let 10 minutes up on her time because you talk for 10 minutes. No. So that stopped you from talking for the hour. You might plan to speak for an hour, but with all these interruptions, it is just bad manners. Because, as I said to you, and I tell everybody else, a point of order, when you get on a point of order, you are saying that this person has breached the rules of the House. And so when they say point of order, And the president or the speaker should say which rule they're broken. But the president and the speaker said, "Let them talk," because that's their people, and they don't allow them. Again, they say, "Oh, the member is misleading the house." That is, you cannot call a person a liar. And when you say the person is misleading the house, you are calling that person a liar. As a matter of fact, it is a grave offense in the mother parliament, the parliament that we got our traditions from in England. You cannot say some person is misleading the house in England. The closest you can come to that is to say that the member is inadvertently misleading the house. He doing it, but he didn't realize he's doing it, and you can get away with that. But you can't say, because I've watched Speaker Hoyle, the present speaker in England, put is his name Blackwood or Ian Blackford, who was the leader of the Scottish National Party, or whatever they call themselves, SNP. He called Boris Johnson a liar, you know. And Boris Johnson was a liar, but you can't call him so in the house. And he refused to say inadvertently, and he put him out. He had to put him out because that was a grave breach of the rules. So, but when we get up and says somebody is misleading the house, they're lying. They're saying that you're lying, right? Okay, let me get back now to the other section thing I want to talk about. When you are made redundant, you just don't get severance pay. You get vacation pay if you're entitled to any vacation. And you get your notice money if you agree to take notice money. Right? Because once under the common law, you can give a person notice or pay in lieu of notice. Under the Employment Rights Act, you have to agree to take pay in lieu of notice, or it is unfair dismissal. So if the fellow wants to send you home and he wants to give you some money to tell you don't come back, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to say how employers can remedy that. Because if they say that, they will do it and then disadvantage the very people I'm trying to help. There is a way, but they're not going to hear it from me. Under pain of punishment, I will not repeat it on this show because it will make the employers wise. But there's a way to do it. But I am telling workers that if you can say, I don't want to, no, I want to pay a low notice. And in which case, even if they put it, you make it clear that I don't want to pay a low notice. If they put it there, that's their problem. But that makes it unfair, right? So, and the vacation, you are entitled to vacation if you have worked for 208 days a year. You're entitled to vacation. If you are a weekly, fortnightly, or monthly person, if you work 208 days, you're entitled to your 3 weeks vacation or your 4 weeks vacation, as the case may be. If you work other than weekly, fortnightly, or monthly, you get your vacation after 150 days, 150, right? However, if they dismiss you and you work for 3 months or more, you are entitled to vacation pay. They just have to prorate it. If you're entitled to 4 weeks a year, 3 months is a quarter of a year. So is there a cutoff years of service that you can get severance? Yeah. Yes, there is. Let me get back in. Right? So they will owe you a quarter of your vacation, which would be a week if you're there with 4 weeks pay. Stephen Jackman is asking, is there a cutoff years of service that you can get severance? Yes. If you have worked for 100 years, they will only, well, not count 100 because you can only get 33 years. But let's say if you work,
You said if you work for 100 years.
yeah,
You
you
mean
can
100
only.
years or 100?
No, I was just
Go ahead.
joking.
Go ahead.
Now, if you
Okay.
work, let's say 40, 45 years in the job, you will only get severance based on the last 33 years. So you don't get any compensation for the years in excess of the 33 years. Maximum is 33 years. And if you let your 67th birthday pass, all that nice money that you would have gotten, you ain't gonna get no more, because severance pay you're cut off at 67. You will not get or when the age go up 68, because it's going up to 68. You know, this administration has recently carried it up progressively until it gets to 68. So until right now it is still 67. So vacation pay and leave notice if you accept, because if you don't accept, it makes it unfair dismissal. Now, I wouldn't, if you are getting severed under 9 years, you know, I will make the noise and try to get to the Employment Rights Tribunal if you get, because they're going to give you the same amount of money. It is only after 10 years that you start getting more money. Right? So you get the compensation for unfair dismissal and the compensation for severance from 2 to 9 years is the same. If you work for a year, it is not severance. You don't get severance pay for a year, but you can still get compensation for unfair dismissal. That you're going to get 5 weeks pay compensation for unfair dismissal if you get severance thing under 2 years. More than a year, but under 2, you will still get 5 weeks pay for compensation. Right? The next thing that people ask me today, because people are really hurt when they found out what this government is doing to them, and it's reached a point where they are telling me they're voting again. I said, no, that's the wrong solution. You vote them out. The Employment Rights Act has a schedule that sets out some of the terms that will determine if you are self-employed or you are an employee. It's the first schedule to the Employment Rights Act. And it says, in determining whether a contract of employment exists, consideration shall be given to whether, and mind you, they will tell you that these are not exhaustive. There are more factors, but these are the main ones. It says there's an obligation on the part of the employee to give personal and exclusive service. Now, if I'm working in your office all day, I can't left and go work somewhere and come back. You know? Because if I'm a contractor, I can leave my member to work site and go hang and come and do your thing. So you working for the government, you have to come work and work there, and you can't go work somebody else. You're an employee. It says the work is done according to instructions of the employer, and the manner in which the work is carried out is subject to the control and direction of the employer. If them they tell you what to do, how to do it, you're an employee. C, the work has continuity, and such continuity creates for the employee an economic dependence upon the employer without there being any financial risk to the employee. Meaning that that's where you get money from. That if you don't get the money from this person, you might not be able to pay your bills. And you don't have to bear the light bill, phone bill, the other stuff that employers have to pay, because it ain't for you, it ain't yours. Right? D, the work is carried out within fixed hours at a workplace or workplaces specified or agreed by the employer. Meaning that, for instance, you work in the registration department. They tell you you're going to go out to work at District Air Court, or you're going to go to work at the court in St. Matthias, or you're going to work at District Court or whatever. There you are working under their instructions, and when they tell you to go, you gotta go and work. So you are now, according to this, an employee. Then E is the work involves the integration of the employee in the organization of the business, including his subjection to its policies. Because now, if you work in the place and you gotta follow the policies and the procedures in the workplace, no, if I'm an employer, you can't tell me how to do my. If I'm a self-employed person, you can tell me I want you to do X. You don't gotta care how I get done, as long as at the end of the day or the end of the month or the week, it is done to your satisfaction and you pay me. But I don't have to get involved in your business. F, the employee is subject to the procedures of the business for addressing grievances and display matters. Again, that's self-explanatory. You can bring a call a fella and chastise you for doing bad things. That thing you can't do that to a contractor, right? G, the employee is in receipt of remuneration payable on a stipulated basis, for example, hourly, weekly, monthly, and intervals, and all such payments are subject to statutory deductions. These people though are saying, oh, we pay you, but we're talking statutory deductions. No, it's not just one by itself. There's a combination of these things. The employee is entitled to holiday pay. They're not giving a holiday pay, so a fellow will work all the time. And if he does not work, if I saying, oh, we're paying you, they do it to the doctors at they do it to the doctors in the hospital and at the clinics. And some of them work 10 years, one they know work 20 years. And they just send them home and they feel like, because one, the hospital can't do it anymore because the hospital is a statutory board, but in the government service, civil service, they're not bound by the Employment Rights Act, so they can break the rules. And then it says, the employee makes no or only nominal investment in tools and equipment. You provide the tools, you give me the laptop, you give me all that kind of things, and then they work myself? No. But what happens? As some person explained to me, Mr. Franklin, I know that these things are wrong, but I want the job, I want the money, so I can't go make the noise. Yes, you can make some noise. You can go to the National Insurance and tell them, look, these people ain't talking about National Insurance, but I won't be able to pay. Looking down the road, National Insurance will send to the workplace. They won't say, well, 40 sent me. They will just come and say, well, National Insurance has the power and the right to enter workplace and demand information. And you have to give them as a criminal offense. So National Insurance goes and does an inspection, and when then they will find all the information that they're looking for, and they will not know that it is you. Mind you, if they have somehow find out it is, again, unfair dismissal under the Employment Rights Act. Now, if you can be able to convince the tribunal that it was because you went to National Insurance and complained, or you went to the Labor Department and complained, the tribunal is empowered to, in addition to your compensation that I told you about earlier, the 2.5 weeks or the 3 weeks or whatever, they are entitled to give you up to a year's pay as punishment for what you did to that worker. And some of the, mind you, while I'm at it, I'll tell you the other areas. It says that the reason for the dismissal is that the employee was or proposed to become an officer, a shop steward, or a safety and health representative, or a delegate, or a member of a trade union. So if you join the union and the fire you, it is not only a criminal offense where you can go to jail, it's also unfair dismissal where you can get another year's pay. Right? The other one is that the employee participated in trade union activities outside or with the consent of the employer working hours. So if you tell me I got some union things doing, and he said no, and you still go, you can't do nothing. right?
Caswell, I must tell you the truth because our time is run by so fast, and I can see Rose in the waiting room to come in for the next segment. But um, let me ask you this: have you ever given consideration to hosting something like a one-day workshop or something like that for employees?
No,
Have you?
I used to do that prior to COVID,
Hmm.
but then after, but in COVID you cannot have crowds, and
Right.
I like to be interactive. I don't like Zoom, and I'm not really that technical,
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
can upload these things and put up all
Right.
these
Right.
things and
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And then I tried to start back recently, back last year, and I went and I ordered copies of Employment Rights Act, Holidays Repair Act, and all the other things that I would need. Several copies. I
Right.
went to
Right.
the printery and they didn't have paper.
But they have so many millions of dollars. How you mean they didn't have paper? Don't answer that. That's another subject for
The
another
man
time.
had the paper. So I had to cancel. I had to cancel the thing because, um, you know, I want
Uh,
to be able to give persons a booklet that they can go through and follow me and stuff and mark it up, and
yeah, yeah.
and everybody don't have a device that they can do.
Something like a workbook, something like a
Yes,
workbook kind
you
of
know,
thing. Right, right, right.
and unfortunately, I then get a bit frustrated because you can't get the equipment to do what you want to do. Imagine if we have a printer that don't have paper. You know
Wow,
that's
wow.
new. And when the ladies tell me, Caswell, you talking about printing paper, but we ain't got to paper either.
Rose, you could believe that, Rose.
And I all I could do is laugh.
You
You
have to
know,
unmute. You got to unmute, Rose. Welcome to the show, my dear. We're coming into your segment right away because I want to keep things rolling. But Caswell is so filled with information. I think
Yeah.
Rose, I think when he passes away, what we are going to do is we are going to have the mortician remove his brain and we're going to put it at the archives down by. Oh no, that
go
burnt down.
burn.
No, 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 no,
You
no,
can't put it down.
no,
It go
no.
burn.
Haven't you heard the latest that, pardon me, haven't you heard the latest that the Minister of Culture said that they have not lost as many documents as they thought at first? Have you heard that one?
Yeah, I saw the
No,
comment.
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that one yet. But before we even roll into that, Caswell, what I will say, because I see Kamhar here saying, I hope you restart the workshops. You can get two or three young people to assist and set up for you. Yeah, we can organize that. The most important thing is for you to be available, and maybe we can look at getting some sponsorship and getting some things printed, maybe in Trinidad, Caswell, because I have done that before because it's CARICOM, right? Um, we're supposed to be interacting together, but I think it would be really valuable.
No, trade unions are entitled to get all of their educational material duty free. That's the law.
Okay,
Not
great,
not
wonderful.
cars, as others have gotten. Educational material, books, pamphlets.
I I
Because
I take responsibility for the BMW that Mr. Trotman got. Okay, that's my sale that I put him in. But no, really, quite seriously, Caswell. I mean, when I listen to the information you share, there's so many people on here commenting about it. I am just wondering if we couldn't look at doing something in the not too distant future. Maybe I can speak to maybe one or two of my ministerial colleagues, and we could use their facility, and reduce the cost, make it something that people can come to, or whatever. But we can talk about that. But I really believe it's something that we need. I think there's just so much information, and I don't know how many people will watch the show afterwards, in terms of on YouTube and so on, that they could get this information and then try and put it together. And maybe Caswell, maybe Dave, I can talk with Dave about this. Maybe what we can do is edit the clips with you as to what you share, and put them together, and then put it out on YouTube or something like that that people can get, because this is invaluable information that cannot be lost, really, and people need to know their rights. And so I have one more day before Marcia reassumes the hosting of the show and fires me or gives me a break. She's not going to fire me. And I your mic is muted. Yeah.
Sorry. Some person asked a
Um,
question about people who get made redundant on our sent home during the vacation and stuff, right?
yeah.
Now,
Just let
it's
me Rose, if we can just take about 5 minutes out of your time,
Oh,
if that's
that's
okay with
fine.
you, so that he
That's
can
all
answer
right
this
by
one.
me.
All right.
no, this
I
is not.
had intended to give way to Caswell to continue, and I volunteer
It's only been a couple of minutes. Not going to be thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
to
Okay, go ahead,
assist with
Kaz.
any
you
workshop that could be organized.
Yeah, yeah.
the
Go ahead.
if you dismiss somebody while they're on vacation, the dismissal is null and void and of no effect. Essentially, they did not dismiss you. All right.
Okay.
Severance now, well, severance might be another matter because it could be a place where the place burned down, but you can't no claim that that they will keep you employed if the place burned down. So in a situation like that, yes, you can get away with it, or the employer dies. All right, if the employer dies, well, and I'm talking about a person who is a sole proprietor or something like this because the company don't die. So even if you own a company and the owner dies, the company still exists, right? And which is also another thing problematic. You know, if you work for your husband or you're his nephew, son, stepchild, or whatever else, you don't get severance pay. They're excluded from receiving severance pay. All right, so that's another um, area that people got to be
Wow.
careful
Wow.
with. If you are the brother, sister, husband, wife, stepson, stepdaughter, you do not get severance payment if you get sent home. So it's better work for a company. It is also
But
better for the
if you're working for a company that is your parent's company, um, does that apply as well? If it's
no,
if
no,
a
no,
company?
because a company is a legal person, and as such, the only thing it can do is get children and them kind of things. And you know, mind you, we got some couples now that legal but can't get children because they're same sex, but that's another thing. But a company um is for all intents and purposes is a legal person. It's a person in itself, separate and distinct from the people who own it. That is where you
Okay.
incorporate. Because
Right.
if you incorporate, your money that you got in the bank that you ain't get from the company or an answer is separate and distinct from the assets of the company. If you are a sole proprietor and you operate in a business and even your house can get sold if something go wrong in your business, they sue you for everything you got, can be a house. The only thing left you with is the wife who will leave you because you don't got nothing. So it's always best to incorporate.
Right. Right. Right.
So thank you, Rose, and I think I will allow you to do yours because it isn't you, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, Rose, you'll need to unmute. I'm hearing a little background noise, maybe from your fan as it blows around across the microphone. I think that might be it. I do know you need to keep cool. Although, to be honest with you, I've been there where you are, and up where you are is so cool up there. It's not funny. But it's really great to have you on tonight, Rose. Welcome. Welcome. We're looking forward to what you're going to be sharing with us tonight in terms of that educational. I have been so busy today, I haven't got a chance to get the reference, but I think I saw something to do about some act or something to do with a reading program. And I'm not sure if that's what you're going to be touching on, but welcome. And we are turning to you now for you to share with us what you have on your mind. And thank you again, Caswell. My goodness. I mean, of course, we are free to jump in with Rose, and I know she would want us to do that. But wow, I mean, boy, this is a university. I'm going to apply for a degree. Go
Thank,
ahead, Rose. Go ahead.
thank you very much. A pleasure to be with you, Pastor Ferdy and Caswell, as usual. And good evening to loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen of our faith. Um, I thought I would have had the luxury, Pastor Ferdy, of reclining until Friday. I'd covered on in my usual slot, and luckily I checked my messages to see that you were asking me if I'll be on tonight. And how can I say no to you? Huh? How can I say no? And I
Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity. And you pointed me to speaking on education, which I have not spoken on since the results for the common entrance were shared. And I spoke to my um, concern that students could score zero after so many years in the primary school system.
Wow.
There are some things that have um, come about, that have been drawn to my attention uh, in our chat, the panelist chat, as well as from other sources. There are persons who keep their thumbs on what's happening behind the scene, and we thank them. And
Yes.
so it is not only the deputy chair of this president of the Senate who boasted of the contacts that they have in government when they were in opposition, who shared them information, and the AG who had said in a speech in the House of Assembly Law House when he was in opposition that they got information, inside information from the Commissioner of Police. There are persons out there who trust us, Pastor Ferdy, who trust us, Caswell, and who keep us informed and will share information, not maliciously, but to ask, have you heard about this? Do you know about this? Can you use this in your on the Marcia Week show? And we do our own vetting as keeping with protocol. We do our own vetting to ensure that the information is not compromised and will not compromise our standard. I want also to say that I'm starting at this point um, to establish my ability and my credibility to speak on matters pertaining to education. Education did not choose me. I chose education as soon as I left the St. Michael School. I went to the Ministry of Education on gaining my GCE or levels, the 5 required at good grades. At that time, they were only taking 3, I think at that time, 3 O levels and LCCs. And I had the required 5 at good grades. And I showed up at the Ministry of Education, a timid, shy, lanky, slim introvert, and offered myself at age 17, just out of school, to teach. And I've done so from 1974, even now in retirement. My neighbors' children have come to 2 young persons from the neighborhood came before school was finished and asked my husband and I if we could do some summer studies with them. They're both at older secondary schools. So I'm here. Somebody said I'm echoing. Am I?
I am not. I'm not hearing an echo on my end. You're singing a little tinny, but I'm not hearing an echo in. I'm not sure. But you go ahead and I'll see if
Yes,
that's what I'm
please.
going to hear too.
So I have spent all my life in teaching, I said, from the cradle to prisons in all settings here in Barbados, and I've had the privilege of doing so in England. I've had the privilege of doing so as a professional fellow in various organizations involved in adult education training. And I say that because I was concerned last night when Kimar presented facts on what's happening, data, and then someone could come in the chat and ask if Kimar is speaking the truth. We do not come on this chat to this program, this platform, to sensationalize. We come here with information. And so I would want to speak to some information that was sent to me. Was concerned about the Ministry of Education is rather quiet. We do know that they have put education reform on hold for 2 years or so. But still, it seems as though that behind the scenes, um, things have been happening and will be thrust on us. And I use that word thrust, THRUST, if we are not prepared. And I want to introduce the audience, if they have not seen it, to what I call a glossy online coffee table magazine that the Ministry of Education launched recently, the July edition, and it's called Firm. Now, when it was sent to me, I said, Firm? They're starting a firm in education. But then I realized that it's an acronym which I will ask Dave to show to us that new glossy magazine. Could we zoom in a bit on it, right? And come down, Dave, so that we could see what FIRM stands for. No, to the top. I'm sorry. Go back up to the top, please. And this is how our money has been spent. Everything has to be glossy, you know that. We had a glossy launch of the education reform. We had a glossy launch for the uh, announcement of the National Committee on Literacy. And here now we have this coffee table magazine online, and it is called The Firm, which stands for Fair, Inclusive, Relevant, and Modern. And this is supposed to be a monthly newsletter produced by the Ministry of Education, Technological, and Vocational Training. And Dave, could you just flip the pages to show us the content? Could you zoom in? There was a message on the front page from the Minister of Education, so she's not being silent. A word from the Chief Education Officer, something again on education reform. So it is still there. although it's not up in their face, they're still concerned about education reform. Could you slide it? I just want, yes, I want us to be beware of the term inclusive. And you may remember I spoke to that when we were looking at education reform and the pillars, and that inclusive, according to UNESCO, does not only mean special needs children being included in the system, but it has also um, consideration for gender orientation. So thank you, Pedro, to reminding us to be beware of that term, inclusive. Education reform, a summary on what what we're talking about. So they're still very much looking at education reform. So we have to monitor how they will reel and come again, as we have heard the term used. Now let's look at the next one, the next page, Dave. Thank you so much, Dave. And then we had something on robotics. Then they signed a memorandum of understanding, Barbados Cuba connection, and I welcome that. I welcome that. The battle of the robotics. I welcome anything that enhances learning. A delegation from Cuba visited the Ministry of Education. I just love Cuba. We went on a 15-day or 20-day holiday to Cuba and just loved it, my husband and I. So anything to enhance that connection, I support. Next page, please. Then we had summer learning series, and don't be misled. It's not there about the child. It is the usual summer vacation um, training programs for teachers and those in education. Then we have, this is the that page with the young persons. That is the youth education. What Dave, could you give us the head for that? Student voices, yes, those who are representing the National Student Council. Next page, please. Thank you. Then we had the Prime Minister signing another memorandum of understanding with Columbia University and Urtiston College. They have over the years have had very good relationship with Columbia University, and any university, any partnership that enhances the professional development of teachers, I support. Um, Given that it does not in any way compromise, I keep use that word, compromise the standards and the tenets of education that we are accustomed to. Then the other pages now, they seem to have run out of news. So the other pages, it consists health and drinking water, etc. A glossy coffee table magazine. Let's look at the next page. Dave, please. Could you go on to the next page? Here we have the hurricane checklist. And I like this one, the brown bag experiences. And this promotes where they're saying that persons within the Ministry of Education could grab a brown lunch bag, come with their lunch, and sit down and chat and dialogue and engage on education reform. This seemed to be happening in house in the Ministry of Education. The brown bag experiences, that's the lunch, sandwich bag. Come and let's talk, let's chat. They're having fun. They're really having fun in the Ministry of Education. And then the following pages, Dave, the following pages now speak to all the other activities that would have been happening within the Ministry of Education with TVET, with uh, things happening in education, that kind of um, photo shoots that they were having. Um, and then the final word from P.S. Odell. And apparently this glossy magazine will be produced monthly. This is how um, this is how our money eh, monies are being spent on a magazine like this. I mean, what about GIS? Can't you get this back on GIS, Government Information Service, um, in the area devoted to education? Why this? I laud efforts that promote achievements and gains in education. But look at this. Look at this. And they say it may have been funded or sponsored by a funding agency. The question that was put to me when it was sent, uh, you know, who's paying for it? Who's paying for it? And whether it's sponsored by a funding agency, I'm sure that that money could be put to better use. We have passed the 30 government information service. They used to be. But I'm saying the government information service is now a roundup and uh, 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 collating what's happening, the MPs are doing, as opposed to speaking to to issues that are national and what's happening in the various ministries. Um, Someone call it propaganda selling in colorful pictures and empty words. What a summary to close off this one. So, Pastor Ferdy, this was sent to me. I thought I would share so that persons out there know that this is what is happening in education. All right, Dave, I also sent, thank you very much, Dave. I also sent to you, Dave, Pastor Ferdy. As I said, I thought I would have had until Friday. So spare me, please, if if um, if I say that I'll have to come back. No, this was sent to us in our chat, Pastor Ferdy, and this is the first time that I did. Could you just take it off the screen a minute or two for me, um, so that I could give some background? This was sent to me, and it is titled the. Please, just let me. It is called sent out by the Ministry of Education. Uh, this was sent to me sometime back. Um, now I look at it. This was sent to us. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a recent document. And I would ask persons to please find out for us if this is a recent document. How long ago was this document sent out? And have you, Pastor Ferdy, because within there, I am seeing, within there, I am seeing certain requirements, uh, certain activities required by other groups. Now, I look at the heading, the caption here, and it is from pardon me. There's so many documents sent to me. I am noticing now the I'm noticing now, pardon me, folks, that it seems to be headed by the Office of Public Sector Reform. Do we still have that?
Hmm, it's a good question.
Do we still have that? I don't know if Caswell knows if we still have the Office of Public Sector Reform, but this comes out under a caption. But however, I do not know if this is what is being proposed. I speak under correction, but Dave, you can put up those slides for me. No. I speak under correction, and I am asking here that these are some guidelines on a national policy on
Appreciate.
reading. Again, I speak under correction. So I am asking my persons out there, if you can validate this for us, do let us know. If this is an old document or a recent document. I do know that they have launched a task force, that's the word, a task force on literacy. And
Well, well, if I can cross you, Rose, I'm seeing at the top of the document, Ministry of Education, National Policy on Reading, 240722 to 2014 26. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but the date that I would think that 240722 is actually a date. And
20, 20,
sorry, uh, 220724, which would be technically today. So I'm not sure. I'll look through the document while you were speaking and see if I see any date.
yes, please. We don't want to mislead. That's why I am engaging you, my fellow audience, um, to correct us and guide us. But when I look at the document, the preamble, the objectives, the proposed content, um, the strategies, the skills and competence, the skills and competencies desired, the desired skills and competencies, and the strategies. I, as someone in the field, um, having done all my postgraduate studies in the teaching of literacy and reading, I cannot I don't find any fault with them. However, if this is a recent document, I am concerned, however, about the responsibilities that are the requirements. Let's say that um, expected, the things expected of those in partnership. And I find this to be what I term draconian. draconian. The language, for example, the school under the leadership of the principal will be required to. Well, under your jurisdiction as a Ministry of Education, you can make that requirement on your principals and on the teachers under your hire. And I find nothing wrong with what the things that are expected to be done within the school. But let's look at the next one. And please tell me, yes, I do know that there is a task force. I saw when it was launched. The next page, Dave.
Is that the page you're looking for with parents and guardians will be required?
Yes, the parents and guardians. Where's
Yeah,
that?
the language is very draconian and very intimidating. I do not believe the Ministry of Education is in a position to direct parents and guardians, or for that matter, the church or community groups or the business sector. You can
And the
recommend.
church, the
Yeah,
church. That
you
is
can.
why the document came to me. As I said, I have not had time to research it as thoroughly as I normally do, as well as to validate validate the information and the source. Um, if it is a prior one, I would suggest, if not a recent one, I would suggest that that language, parents and guardians will be required to be modified. It sounds, as I said, draconian, directive, instructive, and controlling.
Well, let me use another word. It sounds very condescending. Um, here again is the government wanting to direct the lives of Barbadian citizens. And while I appreciate and understand the intent, the language is out of place. The government is not in a position to require parents and guardians to do anything. They can recommend and they can suggest.
Yes. And then the church. So I again, those who are in the audience, please do some research, and if you can share with us if this information is current, if this document is current, if it is recent. My when it was sent to me, I said I would share it and ask for feedback. Um, Here, the church. What do you know about the church? Pastor Ferdinand, were you in any way contacted before you were in the church? Um, faith-based organizations. Dave, we've got something here. Uh, were you aware of this pastor anytime prior or recent?
No, I was not, and I'm not aware that our fellowship, through our bishop and through our district, were informed of this. But furthermore, when you use language, you will be required to do so and so and so and so. What it suggests is that if you do not do it, there is a ramification, and that is why the wording in this document. You see, this is why people have adopted a very aggressive position to the government, because the government keeps uh, ordering Barbadian citizens. And you're not employed, you are employed by us. You cannot order us. We are your employers and you are our employees. And I am going to repeat that. I don't care what part of parliament you sit down in. I don't care how high up on a chair you go or how tall you go to the UN or anywhere. You are our employees. And I want to let that echo in the ears of from the Prime Minister back down. You work for the people of Barbados. When you took your oath, you took the oath to serve. That is what you did. And we elected you to serve the people of this country. So you're not in a position, with all due respect, to tell the people what is required of them. The people can tell you what is required of you, but it can be recommended. I get, Rose, the intent and the goal, but the languaging is inappropriate.
Yes, and I appeal if anyone can as I said, it was sent to me. I did not have enough time to study it in its entirety, but it is a well a thorough a document that is thoroughly prepared. So that meant some thought went into it and some preparation. And but this is the section that I'm concerned with. Yes, I can understand engaging. That was something that I promoted as president of the Barbados Adult Education Association. Community-based reading. We went into church and we taught to churches how they can improve literacy. I ran a literacy program at Abundant Life Assembly in 1990, the International Literacy Year. Um, so I do know of partnerships, but however, these you give guidelines, but you don't make them as requirements. So I just said I will draw this to your attention. Why too? That it kind of concerns me initially is that there is a trend. There is a trend. It went on to about the business sector, UWI, what will be required to do. And there is a trend, Pastor Ferdy, that rears its head consistently, where the language is dictatorial, where the language is stiff, where the language is, it has a tone of consequences. If you don't do these, will be the consequences.
Yes, yes, that's
We've
torn.
seen it. We've seen it with the child protection bill. We've seen it with the cybercrime bill. We've seen it in so many areas. And therefore, if it is cause for us to nip it in the bud and be proactive, I encourage yourselves to do it. That is why I want you to out there, if you have any information on this particular document, uh, in terms of how recent and current it is, do let us know. And one of the other things, two things I want to ask of the Ministry of Education. You did say, yes, Dave, we could take that down now. I thank you very much for assisting. We did hear on the press conference, at the press conference, when they announced the results of the common entrance, that the Ministry of Education said, the chief education officer as well as the minister did say that they were doing some remedial, they were going to offer remedial interventions for those children who did not gain satisfactory marks below pass marks at the common entrance. I would want to know that these have been put in place and not just a week or two before children are ready to transition. But just as you're having all these sports camps and whatever, I do hope that you have set up these interventions, these programs in a timely fashion, in a timely fashion, and giving the children space and time to acquire the skills that they lacked and showed up um, in their writing the exams. And
Rose, uh,
another, yes,
Rose,
please.
if I could ask of you, because appeals were made to the government over and over and over with regards to giving the children, this group of children that sat the common entrance exam on this occasion, a little more time due to the COVID 19
Yes, we
pandemic
begged.
and shutdown. I do not recall, and I stand to be corrected, I do not recall that any leeway was given. I stand to be corrected because there was a push to, because of the lack of in face training and education for the children to, who would have sat common entrance. There was a request to extend the time. Now, seriously, Rose, if that was done, or should I say, if it wasn't done for something as serious as the pandemic and the draconian shutdowns, which we now know were wicked and illegal. I'm tempted to say that. Let me say it because all of this has now come out globally. It has all come out globally. Why would we think that the government would be facilitating what you have just expressed? I don't see them doing it.
I I I would like to repose confidence in something like education, and that they would respond as they have said they would. I remember on this show, I emphatically, passionately begged for a deferral of the date for the exam, as did Senator Watson in the House. She begged. They didn't. But again, Reverend Ferdy and dear Caswell, you notice why I call you Caswell, dear Caswell. Um,
That sounds
just
nicer
as
than
they
Reverend
have
Purdy.
not. You remember I did the roll call, and I visited a church yesterday, and there were people lining up as if I were the priest, uh, lining up to say thank you. We listened to the Martha Reed show. Thank you, Rose, on Friday night for that roll call. I didn't even know these people existed. And just as those same MPs, remember I made an appeal, Pastor Furley, that the very MPs in the lower house make an appeal through the House to the Minister of Education on behalf of the children in their constituencies. Let a voice be heard individually and collectively. I appeal, not a sound. The cat had their tongue. Similarly, as it does on crime and violence. And this does not show representation. There are national matters that, regardless of your partisan alliances, you should speak out as an MP. I probably have it wrong. And this brings me on, Pastor Purdy and audience and Caswell. So I listened to the Minister of Education, Honorable Kim McConney, a couple of months ago before school finished. I think it was in about May, when they had a joint St. Philip BLP constituency town hall meeting. I don't know if it was a Sunday evening. I don't know if it was Paris Speak or they were reporting. And the Minister of Education was pleased to share that she has launched a program in her constituency called captioned Learn to Read, Read to Learn. That's not a new caption. We have used that many times. We used to use that when I worked at the Manchester Adult Learning Center. Um, and she boasted of it. Now I'm saying, correct me if I am too, what's the word, nationalistic, I am too charitable. But I was saying, why only in your constituency? You are Minister of Education. You lament, you bemoan the fact that the literacy standard is low, the reading and writing skills are low in Barbados. Children in school can't read. Why focus on your constituency only to get votes to get back in the House? I thought that as Minister of Education, programs like those should be national and universal.
Well,
Therefore, a project.
I'm going to raise another question to you.
Yes, please.
And that is, you have been in, and when I say you, one has been in government since 2018, and you are going to talk about how our results, a decline, so to speak, in the children's educational aspect. Then you are responsible. You have been in government for the last 6 years. You mean to tell me it has taken 6 years and you still haven't got it where you can improve the aspect of educational processes in the country? You came to office in 2018. You can't blame, and you see this Rose and Caswell is where I part company with people who are partisan. We have to stop blaming previous administrations and own the responsibility today for the failure of what we have been doing. You cannot keep pointing back to what the DLP did or previous BLP had. Own your responsibility for your failure to address the educational system in Barbados that will improve the marks of the children in primary school. I can see you bite chomping at the bit, Caswell. I can see you chomping at the bit.
No,
But,
because Freddie, what I agree with you, see, can you identify any area of success that this government has had, except in acquiring loans? Just remember, they have not been. There's nothing that they have done so far that we can point and say, well, this is here to uplift Barbados. Nothing. The reason being that the people that they put in place, like first, like the two ministers of education, didn't have a clue about education. All right. So then they had to turn around and get the Mayor Denny, who was retired, to come in and guide them. The Mayor Denny said in policy, that's the government's this world, not hers. But unfortunately, the education system is what the Mayor Denny would have liked to have seen had she been in the job and continuing. No, this is so. It's basically they have divorced themselves from what they're supposed to do. That comes because you selected people to run that were not capable of doing anything in any subject, but they were loyal. So it's not going to get any better.
I observe a guy, I know the loyal opposition is probably going to give me licks, Rose, but I observe some comments, and I stand by what I am saying. Stop the foolishness of blaming previous administrations for things. You have been in government for 6 years. Stop it. Own responsibility for where you have the country today. Stop the nonsense. Barbadians are tired and fed up and sick of it. And only blind, stupid, ignorant, partisan lackeys will not admit that. This is not the time to be talking rubbish about a party and what was done by the previous administration. I don't care what Frandl Short did, or Owen Arthur, or Tom Adams. This is where we are on the 22nd of July, 2024. What are you doing now? And if you are not aware of what was done, which you should be, you are doomed to repeat the same stupidness which you are proving that you are doing. Stop it. That is the problem we have with these people, these lackeys of parties, that they will not let go of what was done before. I don't care. This is where I am today. What do we need to do to move forward, Rose, successfully with an educational system? And to my mind, you need to call together a group of persons such as yourself and sit down together with the persons from the Ministry of Education and hash out an educational policy. Don't determine one without consultation and then come and foist it upon the people of Barbados, because that is exactly how this government is functioning. They are functioning without proper consultation. I don't care what anybody has to say to me, because when you go into the constituencies, you're going into the constituencies and only your people are attending the meetings because they have seen how disingenuous and unmanly and nasty you treat people in Parliament and in the Senate. So they do not want to come to be treated nasty by that in that manner by the same kind of people that sitting in Senate and behaving in a nasty conduct. That is why I said that the whole issue of crime and violence in this country starts from the Senate and the Parliament, when people sit down and watch how they conduct themselves. And then you're going to come to talk to me to tell me something about how I handle conflict. Look at how Liz Thompson conducted herself in the Senate to another senator of the quality of Trisha Watson. Why would I now want to hear what you have to say, Liz, when it comes to how I handle conflict? And this is the problem we have in this country. We do not understand that people are watching the example that our leaders are setting. The young people and the children are watching it, and they are acting it out. So now we can come to talk to them. Fix yourself, and the country will fix itself. And that is why I'm saying this foolishness of constantly looking back and talking rubbish about previous administrations is to me disgusting. I don't care what they did. If I have the opportunity to change it, let me get about now, Rose, changing it.
But
Pardon
Freddie,
my passion. Pardon my
but
passion. Pardon my passion.
no, we have, and I'm saying we mean the people of Barbados. The people of Barbados were not satisfied with the last, the Stewart and the Thompson administration, and they removed them. So so why go back to what they were doing? Their stewardship was rejected. Tell us about yours.
Correct.
Tell us what you are doing.
Correct. Tell us what you are doing.
Because everything that they have done so far is important. The Prime Minister travels and she comes back with some harebrained scheme and foist it, tribal crime, child bill, everything you see that comes from overseas. Because a lot of these things that you are seeing now, even the fines in the bill, you just have to go to England and take off pounds and put dollars and you get the same thing. Because the same 70,000 and 7 years, that kind of stuff, just that the dollar sign change, the pound sign in England. Because we go and copy other jurisdictions because we can't think for ourselves. That is the problem. Because they don't have anything between the ears to guide them. So they have to let somebody else do it for them. Our country is
call people like Rose Corbin Caswell and some of the luminaries that we have had, some of the most brilliant head teachers and teachers we have had in this country.
I've told them,
Pastor Ferdy, I will not be called. I will not be called because of my association as a voice of advocacy with you, with persons like yourself. I will not be called. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I
will
know
not
well too.
be called.
They ain't gonna call me either.
When I was in the Senate, when I saw them do a lot of madness with bills and with the labor legislation, I said, look, I'm not looking for any money. Pass the thing through me, let me see it. Then I had to go and complain about it and then go and fix it. Now, if I had seen it before, I would be able to tell them, well, you're going wrong here, you're going wrong there, you're going wrong here. Thing, They don't want, they don't, I am not looking for, they ain't going to put me on any committee and call me chairman or nothing and pay me. I volunteered. I was giving my service to the country if they wanted it. They didn't take it, and they messed up everything they put their hands on. I am not saying that I am a guru in labor law, employment matters, all that kind of stuff, but I knew a lot more than everybody in the government today. I know much more, including the Attorney General. And I'm not boasting, I'm just stating a fact. So if I said to you, look, if you have labor matters, let me see them. Right now, they are trying to fix the Employment Rights Act. Yes, there's some areas that want fixing, but the areas that they want fixed don't need fixing. And that is the problem. What they are doing is to try to fix the ones that the employers complain about. This act is about fairness. Treat people with fairness, and you can do anything as long as you have been fair. If a fellow commits an offense or is alleged to commit an offense, give him a hearing. Allow him to put his side. Let him confront the people who are saying these things about him. What is so wrong with that? But they want to fix that. They won't be able to dismiss people and say, well, we can do it because the changes to the act. No, and the government is going on there. So I beg them, please send me the things, let me look at them. I will do it for free. They don't want that because I might look good. I look good already. Look at me. I'm 65. People tell me I'm 40. I look good already. I don't need them to tell me anything.
Well, you know, Caswell, I don't think they believe that there are people in Barbados who really have Barbados at the center core of their heart and mind. They think all they have at the center core. You know, that's one of the things. I don't care. I guess people, but don't let me say anything. There's a certain gentleman.
Us by their standards.
Yeah, there's a certain gentleman I heard make the statement that he is president for all of a particular country and being exceptionally diplomatic. The government is the government of Barbados, not the government for the BLP. The prime minister is supposed to be the prime minister of Barbados. Rose, you are correct. Parliamentarians who have been elected by their constituents to represent them in parliament are supposed to represent the constituency, not the Barbados Labour Party supporters in the constituency. And if they are not doing so, they should be fired and removed. And if there's one
Pastor
thing,
Purdy,
go ahead.
Pastor Purdy, you would find that programs offered within constituencies by the MPs that they tend to have that partisan, divisive focus. Therefore, persons who would want to participate are sometimes excluded. That is why I said that program, that the MP for that constituency, who is the Minister of Education, should think nationally, should think universally in terms of Barbados, and offer that program as a national program.
Correct.
Read
Correct.
to learn.
Learn to read.
Read to learn. That is not something to score brownie points to get a few more votes for yourself or to boast at a constituency meeting to hit yourself on your chest and say, look what I'm doing for my constituency.
But
It is a national problem reading. That program, I stand by my conviction, it should be a national program at community level rather than constituency level. If you think that persons will hesitate to come, it should be offered at community level within the constituency.
For all of the community, all of the constituency.
But again, Freddie, that is not unheard of because, believe it or not, I actually went to computer classes at the community development, they had, and I went to one in Haggett Hall.
Yes.
That's when the last administration was in place, and I don't know much about the computers, and I figured, well, let me go.
I went to that too, Caswell. That
Yeah,
one at Hackett Hall, and took other adults.
yes, and so so it was there. It is done. So then they go doing a lot of searching and find out what to do. Just ask the community development department to do what they normally do. It's a simple matter.
And
You
give them
see,
the
you see,
resources.
you see again.
Because I do not believe that the resources to run that program comes from that MP's pocket.
But it,
I
but
believe that
Rose,
comes from some government funds.
Rose, the way
Yes,
the way
please.
people, I sometimes wonder if the people of Barbados think the government has money other than the taxes the people of Barbados that are paying,
Or the
because
money borrowed that the taxpayers will
have to
have to
repay.
pay back.
Exactly. It is almost like when you talk to people that think that the money coming out of the parliamentarians and the ministers' pocket, it's not. It is coming out of our pockets as the people of Barbados who are paying taxes. And if
Look,
I am paying for something, wait a minute, Caswell, if I'm paying for something, Rose, then I am the person who should be demanding a particular level of service coming out of my pocket. Go ahead,
to,
Caswell.
I was just saying to show you that it don't come in their pocket anywhere. You just get $7,500 checks. You see, that is the thing. It don't come in theirs. They don't take it out of their pocket. They just out of other people's pocket.
It don't come, a cent does not come from their salaries. All of the cost for everything in this country comes from the salaries of working Barbadians. That is why Barbadians demand answers. We are not requesting. We are paying to do a job. It's your job. That's why I don't want to hear nothing from a politician when campaigns begin of what they have done for the country. You have done your job. You do not get accolades for doing your job. You get accolades when you go above and beyond duty. You don't. I didn't get accolades at my company where I worked at BS&T Motors because I sold vehicles, but I went beyond and I received my accolades. But we have people who want to stand up in front of you and pontificate about what they've done. I don't want to hear how many roads you have paved under your watch, how many lights have been. I don't want to hear, because that is your job. So don't come talking foolishness to me about accolades of what you've done for the country. Those days are over. Wake up to the reality. This is 2024. That is why I stand by what I say. We need to stop looking back. Even today, Rose,
Yes,
my
please.
little 4-year-old is reading off of a tablet or a phone. She is not using a physical book like you and I used, that the ears come up on the book after a time. You remember those West Indian
Dog
readers? Some of
ears.
y'all, some
Mm-hmm.
of y'all know what I'm talking about. But I still have my West Indian reader book that I had in primary school. And it is in mint condition because my mother would not let me put an ear in that book. She hated to see an ear in any books that we had. But today, the children have, as a matter of fact, they don't read anymore. Rose, the books talk to you. They talk to you now. She has a little pen. I wish I had it in my hand that I could show you. She has a little pen, Rose, and as she puts that pen over the particular word, the pen tells her what it is. So reading has changed from our day to the 2024. So we have to adjust because all of what used to be is over. We are moving into an AI future, a technological future, and nothing we had before is going to be relevant to the future of our grandchildren today. Not a single thing. I used to have to use a square rule. You remember that, Caswell?
Mm-hmm.
A square rule in mathematics in school. Rosie, remember those days
Yes,
when we had
yes,
that thing you had to slide up and down?
yes.
Slide rule.
That is a museum piece today. Children don't know what I'm talking about because things have changed. So our educational system has, to my mind, got to be a blend of the experience of the older and the technological advancements of the future.
But I can tell you something, see, I don't care what you do, what advances you have, you must start with the foundation and you must teach them how to read and how to write. The day the computer goes down and you can,
Oh Lord. Listen, that
what are you going
happened
to
the
do?
other day. That happened the other day, Caswell, with a vehicle, my daughter's vehicle, and it took us 4 weeks to get the information. I asked the people. I said, "Well, why you didn't send an email or send a fax?" Very serious. So many people didn't know what he was talking about. When I start talking about fax, they didn't know what he was talking about.
Look, one day I went into a store and they had a discount on something, but the power went off. And the people had to be using calculators to work out 20%.
Yeah.
You know, and
Mental arithmetic.
so I put the money down to the cent on the counter while she was there subtracting the dividing and stuff. And when I did, she said, "How you know that?"
I know, I
I
know,
tell you,
I
it was
know.
magic. And
I,
I just said magic, because you have to be able to do those things. She was there with a calculator trying to work out, and think what she actually did was to find 20% and subtract it from the price, then to tell me what happened. So I said, well, look, if I am paying 20, if I am 20%, that means I'm going to pay 80%. Okay? So, and I multiply by 8, polluted that, and think, and I put this exact thing there, and she was shocked.
but
And that's the
listen,
problem.
Listen, Rose, I
Yes,
wish we could
please.
continue this a little bit more, but Kimar was a little late getting in, and so I could
Yes.
afford to give you a lot more leeway because I was waiting for him to arrive.
Yes,
He's here
please.
now, and I want to shift gears a little bit if that's okay with you, but I would like to ask you to prep for Wednesday night. I know normally you're on Friday, but I would like you to pick up on this on Wednesday night, God willing, because these are some of the important matters we have to deal with. There are questions, and I think I made a note of it. There are more questions than there are answers, and
Yes,
so
please.
we
And
we
Pastor
have to.
Purdy, someone, the person's listening, and someone sent me a link on that document which I forwarded to either you or Dave. So, and I saw in the chat um, a link or two went up on 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 this
Yes,
same document.
I placed the link that I got, but like I said, the only thing I saw was at the very top of the document, a very narrow line with a what looked like a date stamp, which would have been today, but it
Someone
could be the
sent me
computer.
one which I forwarded to our chat,
Yes, thank you. I would take a look at
right?
that.
So
Yes.
you could put disseminate that if possible. Thank you again.
You are so welcome. And Charles Atkins, we agree. I agree with several of these aspects you're talking about: fixed election dates, term limits, recall legislation. I agree with you, sir. And I'm sure that most of our panelists will equally agree with you as well. But Kimar, it's good to have you in the house. The people have been waiting on you. I want to give you the closing moments of the show. We thank you for being able to make it. I knew you were running a bit late, and I appreciate you letting us know. So, sir, let me turn you loose because I know you are going to upset the apple cart again tonight. So, welcome, Kimar. Good evening. God bless. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Permit me, please, to turn off the camera for a minute.
Yes.
yeah. So good night, everyone. Good night to you, Pastor Ferdinand. Good night, Caswell.
Yeah, Jimmer.
Good night to all of the members of the loyal opposition. Happy to be here. Beautiful Monday. I had a very long day today, so I'm in a bit late, but nevertheless, I'm here and I'm glad. So I was trying to take in, bits of your conversation along the way. I got it to Rose, Good night to Marcia, Dave, and the entire team. Seeing everyone. Um, we would have been scheduled to discuss the whole project, which is $60 million worth of taxpayers' money, which was taken from the housing credit fund. Money gone and very little houses for sure. Um, we called for an audit into it. Um, the government is blocking an investigation into it, even after the Prime Minister called for an investigation into Hope. Right. So just to rehash a bit on the Hope project, as you know, the Hope project would have been scheduled to be built around a couple of locations around the island, um, intended to provide housing with solar panels on top. So the government was giving people land free, and you were only to pay for the construction of the house. So the land was at Lancaster in St. James, Colleton in St. Lucie, Colleton in St. John, and O'Lands in St. John. So you remember I would have visited the project at Pool, and when we saw the state of the houses and that the project was actually abandoned and grass and everything was going all over, and the minister said that there were supposed to be 205 houses at Pool, but when we got there, less than 30 structures were partially set up. Right? So that caused me then, first, Pastor Ferdinand, to ring the bell as to what I saw when I would have visited Pool. Right? And we did the video right on the location to show Barbadians exactly what we saw. Right? And since then, the entire saga started to unfold about what really happened with this whole project. Right? $60 million taken from the housing credit fund, right? All types of monies paid out, false reporting of houses or partial structures, people stealing all of the material. You had CEOs who were being paid over 27,000, people who were serving on the board and still paying themselves as members of staff, right? And let's not forget the statement that was issued by he would have been the CEO, the guy who came from Dominica, right, who was involved with the Four Seasons project, right? He issued a statement in the Nation newspaper saying that the project, the status of it is not their fault, and it was the government and the issue of title deeds and how the government never transferred the title deeds from Clico onto Hope, right? So the guy who was the chairman at Clico was also the chairman at Hope. And what is even more sinister was that they were all in the same building at Wording. So you had the whole office in the same building as the Clico office, and that was the same building that Parliament was in. Right? So somebody just needed to walk across the room and things could have happened, but there was no transfer of lands, but still the government went ahead and built on lands that they did not own and spent $60 million worth of taxpayers' money, and we still don't have the houses. People still don't live in them. Right? So we should ask the question: what was really happening with the Clico lands? Right? What is really happening with the Clico lands and who really owns them? What happened with the case? What happened with the case in terms of the transfer of lands and what's really happening with those lands in St. John? Right? So after that, we had a couple of resignations by whole Pastor Ferdinand. We had the finance minister, not the minister, the finance officer resigning. We had the chief executive officer resigning. Uh, the first chairman, which is the former boyfriend of a minister, which is the deputy prime minister, he has since resigned because it was said that he would have made arbitrary decisions outside of the board, and therefore he was fired.
Mhm.
Right. So since then, we don't know where the money is gone. It's probably in people's pockets, but taxpayers are $60 million less that they have, and contractors and all types of people, public government ministers and friends are pocketed off that $60 million, right? And look at the status of the so-called Hope project, right? Look at the status of the so-called Hope project, Pastor Ferdinand. So the ministers, because there were a couple of ministers of housing too, just how they had a lot of ministers in water authority. You had George Payne, who was brutally fired by the prime minister from the Ministry of Housing. Then you had Charles Griffith, who was Minister of Housing. Then you had William Dugate, and Dugate is the man who actually the project wrote under him as minister, right? And then you had Dwight Sunderland. So that is four ministers along the way, right? And still no houses. Like, remember that we were promised 10,000 houses. That Barbadians would have received 10,000 houses. How many houses the government really constructed and built since they came to office? And that is not the worst thing. Check the Chinese steel houses. That is a whole nother story. Millions of dollars of cost overruns. So what they would want to come and tell us now, right, is that they are going to try to restart the whole project, and they're going to need more money to get it off the ground, which means that more contractors have to be paid, more government ministers have to get kickbacks, and another splurging of taxpayer dollars to come and restart these projects, which the elements have taken over. Right? But before they seek to do that, they should tell us about the legal process, Father Ferdinand, as it relates to the Clicquot lands and these plantations in St. John, right? Because the BA, the MC that Clay Masco is leading up, they have taken over the society plantation, right? So I would like some facts as it relates to this project, right? And don't forget that it was also raised that the new CEO, because remember they removed I think it was they removed the chairman a whole couple of times, right? Um, you had Tony Hoyos, you had William Lane, you had Colin Schiff, and then you had this guy from England who was being paid taxpayer dollars in an overseas account. So this whole project was rife with corruption, right? On top of the fact that internally no, the entire organization was being managed in a way that was not pleasing to the state or pleasing to the people, right? So that was a complete waste of taxpayers' money, and somebody, right, needs to be brought to account because there's no getting away from this. There's no way this can be explained in a way that we can say, well, okay, we understand. The facts are clear. You lied to us about the critical lines, you went ahead and you built on them. You used the emergency legislation at the time to issue an emergency order to spend taxpayers' money, and many of these contracts were issued without tender.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Wow.
A lot of the contracts on these were without tender. Right? Because they abuse COVID and abuse the emergency legislation. The emergency legislation where it says that cabinet now vests all authority within itself to make whatever decisions necessary for the good governance of the country. And then the next clause says that cabinet now vests all such authority into the office of prime minister. Right?
Jesus, help us.
So therefore, the order to go ahead and build this project and to construct it, although you had full knowledge because the Ministry of Finance is also in the Prime Minister's office. So you had full power during that time, and the decision came down to go ahead and build, or knowing the legal ramifications and other ramifications. But money is gone, and we have no house,
And
right?
no accountability for the money.
No account, none, right?
None
So
at all. No accountability.
both the leader of the opposition and the prime minister have called for investigations into the whole project. So if the prime minister have called for investigation in it, that means she believes that something corrupt has happened, right? Or something has happened that merited an investigation. Now, you say that in one breath, and then when the issue came out at the PSC, government ministers and government senators voted to block the whole from coming up on the discussion on the committee. Right. So, and let me ask you this: how can the prime minister be sending a body to investigate it herself? Because her office would have been the one who issued the directives to go ahead and build the whole project. So how can you then be sending a body to investigate it? Well, we all know the outcome of that,
That
right?
should be an independent commission. Should be a totally independent commission.
Good. And the leader of the opposition should be allowed the privilege to appoint persons to the commission, even if it does not have all of the say in terms of appointments, but it have some say in terms of persons from different arts. So you can have some person from the bar association, you can have somebody from the accounting association, you can have somebody from the bankers association, you can have some persons like yourself, Pastor Ferdinand, a religious minister. You can have a person like Caswell, the general secretary of a trade union, right? And you treat it like a civil society tribunal of competent persons, qualified or otherwise, to investigate matters like this, right? And that is highly possible. So you can't say to the public that you are setting up a committee and the persons on the committee are Colin Jordan, Sonia, Sonia Brown,
Totally
uh,
foolishness. Foolishness.
and you put your ministers that are in cabinet with you to investigate. Come on, man.
That's a joke.
Right? So we need to get away from farce. And if we are serious about investigating what which we should be, and the prime minister should be, and inadvertently when she says she wants an investigation, she's admitting that she was either clueless to the fact that corruption was going on with this whole project and that she was misled by the persons who had to report to her, and she really felt that the houses were built, or or she could have intentionally allowed the matter to run the course it has run, but only because of public exposure. Public exposure, because if you remember in the budget response from the opposition leader, he spoke extensively about this $60 million, right? Extensively about this $60 million, right? And today we are no wiser about it. Today we are no wiser about the $23 million in cost overruns on the Chinese steel houses, and you can spell steel in both iterations, STEEL and STEAL. At least I got that little English, so I know I got it right.
Yeah,
So
pretending.
So you're good at English.
yeah, so
Pretending.
what, so
You're
what?
good at English.
Yeah, but you know, those steel houses also need an investigation, because let us be factual here about something. Dwight Sunderland, who is the Minister of Housing, if you look at the time he took over that ministry, he would have not been the person who had responsibility for the operational rollout of either the project or these Chinese steel houses. So he was like a come on late kind of scapegoat person who then had to go there and defend something he had no idea about. That is my uh, suspicion about that, right? So the substantive minister who would have had responsibility for these things, right? I already said hope was rolled under Mr. Duguid, and in reality, these Chinese steel houses again, these came in on the auspices of an emergency order, because persons from Hurricane Elsa and Ashfall, and remember when we ordered these houses to help fit the temporary, that was the reason given, right? So again, how can a person who 10 fingers are pointed at in terms of allegations of corruption can then turn around and say that they want an investigation into themselves, and they will select the persons to investigate them, which would be their friends?
But then, can we get? And I mean, I'm just asking the question. What about the president establishing a commission of inquiry?
No, she acts on advice. She's not an executive. She's not an
She's not a member of the executive branch.
no, she cannot do. You see what happens?
Mhm.
Like Biden and Trump and that kind of stuff. She ain't got them kind of powers. She acts through the advice of her ministers. She acts through the advice of the commissions, like for instance,
So,
the
so
service
she's
commissions. If they tell her to fire Caswell fired because she's to act on their advice. Same thing with ministers of government. Ministers of government advise the president complies. Even if, let's suppose they send piece of legislation to her and she says that I don't like this, I'm signing it. That's all what. It will become it will become the law. I can't remember. I will have to double check the time, but it still becomes law, whether she signed it or not. She doesn't really have that power. She is basically a figurehead.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. So Caswell is right. Caswell is right. But this whole farce, right, about this content report, right, you had again a person making an arbitrary decision to go ahead and give contractors lucrative contracts outside of the board, and then appointing himself as a staff member and paying himself almost $27,000 retroactively. So he back paid himself for 2 years. at $27,000 a month, right?
Jesus.
She knows these things, right? So my thing here is why why do the right things? This anti-corruption unit has been set up with Doreen Dotting and all the types of anti-corruption. All of those were set up, and you clearly have cases of public corruption, right? And this is not the only one. I just saw Caswell took a piece of paper there. That issue with that $7,500 check, right? It's a common theme. And now you have this $84 million outfall situation, which is adding on top of that.
Plus
Like,
the 50 million at Kensington. Plus the 10 million that, sorry, Kimar, plus the 10 million. I made a note of it here. Somebody said it. Plus the 10 million for what? Uh, um, batting cages. But I thought the 50 million for Kensington was to refurbish Kensington, but they just add another 10 million for cricket batting cages. So we now talking 60 million for Kensington.
That doesn't include the lights.
Oh, I tell you.
right? I saw um somebody in the comments asking about upgrading the NHC. Now, what they did when they came in is that they significantly decreased the scale of the NHC to do any projects really on the front of it, because they claimed that the NHC was in debt and arrears, and they established Hope as a new entity and put it in the hands of the private. So they basically tried to privatize housing, right? But they were so ashamed because they have to merge urban and rural. So to have to merge urban and rural and shut down NHC would have been such a drastic loss of jobs, and it would have been too much. So what they did was to establish Hope as a private entity, basically, right? Because as private as that's supposed to be, it is still government funded, 100% government funded. So it's still not private, right? So everybody there was being paid government salaries, but some of the salaries that they were getting were substantially higher than any public officer. Right? So the salaries they were getting were substantially higher than the staff at NHC, right? So my thing here is, if these type of operations, right, which I call basically the off budget operations, meaning that there's no document, meaning no central bank report, no IMF report, no estimates of revenue expenditure that will show you financial statements or any type of revenue expenditure for a whole Inc. You would have to go to Kaipo to see something like that, and I could bet you that the financial statements a whole, they're probably not up to date and logged in at Kaipo, because the financial statements of Ho Inc. would tell us exactly how this money was spent. And in any proper society, Pastor Ferdinand, when financial accounting goes wrong like this, the international body for accountants come in, they come in and they take it over, and they completely audit it from inside out and provide
Just me button here a little bit. See,
Mm.
this thing is such a fraud. If it were a public company, the information will all go Kaipo. But this is a private company owned by government. Now, if government was doing this by itself, if government was doing this as a truly public service, you would have all kinds of checks and balances. So they took out the checks and balances and start running away with people's money. So it was designed to be fraudulent and to get the hands on government money with the least possible oversight. That is what happened with Hope Inc. Hope Inc. did not need to exist. There was no urgent need for a structure like Hope Inc. We already have it there. But the statutory boards, you have to report to Parliament every year. Hope Inc. ain't got to report to the body. They report to the minister. So you see what's happening there? It is designed to make sure that when you steal, you can't catch them so easy. But they were not looking for the Kimar.
Well, somebody, I think this Michael Nurse is saying there that the 10 million I mentioned was a part of the 50 million. Michael, I will research it because that information was sent to me in addition to the 50 million, but I will research it and get the accurate figures on that. I appreciate that very much. And thank you so much for bringing that to my attention, but I will investigate it further to ensure that that is the case. Yeah, go ahead, Kimar.
Yes. Now, any finance student, any accounting student, any person with an ACCA, CPA, any person that did business studies, law, there's something in it called governance, right? Corporate governance, which speaks to the organizational structure of companies, right? And this project is everything wrong and goes against structured corporate governance. And as I said, the ICAB, the Accountant Association of Barbados, should have saw it prudent. And I will go as far as to say even the courts, the law courts, should have saw it prudent based off the information provided to put a cease and desist notice on Hope Inc. Right? Because if ICAB had to audit Hope Inc. and show all the financial invalidities on it, I could assure you that recommendations for charges for prosecution for financial impropriety will come up. Right? So I am not an attorney, so I can't speak to how ICAP could legally engage a public entity like who the Auditor General. I don't, well, based off the law, and Caswell can help me here with this, based off the law, he has the authority to follow and audit any
Yep.
operation or entity that has government money coming to it,
Yes, correct. Absolutely
right?
correct.
So he should still have some type of legal wronging to
He got
audit,
staff. He
right?
got staff and the technical staff too.
Or Inc. Now, they're saying it's a private company. So it can be engaged, also at a private level, right? And the private level will be for this accountant association seeing it prudent enough to question the corporate governance structure at Hope and to recognize and possibly make some firm, strong recommendations as to how to correct the financial improprieties that are going on there. There's no way a man could be working on the board and hire himself as a staff and pay himself over $27,000 retroactively for 2 years, $20,000 every month for 2 years back pay. And the accountants of Barbados see nothing wrong with that. The Bar Association sees nothing wrong with that. And I know we see a lot wrong with it, Pastor Ferdinand. We see a lot wrong with it. Right? So if the Prime Minister is serious about this investigation, all of the facts are there. All of the facts are there. Do bring your own report if you have to. We could bring our own report and we could meet you at one of your parish town hall, something specifically set up for Hope. We want a town hall, um, parish speech or town hall national emergency meeting speaking specifically to the findings of the whole project. And that's our challenge to the Prime Minister. The call for an investigation, we support you on that investigation. The opposition leaders support you on it too. So get serious about it and call a town hall yourself, your housing ministers, all 4 or 5 of them that were there, and present the findings based on your investigation to us in an open town hall meeting.
Let me ask, Caswell, let me ask you and Kimar a question, please. I'm just checking the chats here. The Auditor General should investigate Hope, uh, but the only problem there, MIMA 2017, is that the Auditor General doesn't have the teeth to bite and legally prosecute anybody. Am I correct, Caswell,
No,
Kimar?
he can
He can
recommend,
recommend to the Director of Public Prosecutions,
you
to the
know, but
DPP.
yeah, but and the DPP is independent.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, but so far,
So far.
I know the young lady,
Okay.
and she appears to be, from what I can see. Um, so I don't, if the Auditor General has made a recommendation to her, or sent it to Commissioner of Police and Commissioner of Police and engage her, I suspect that somebody will get thing, but they gotta get there first because the DPP does not have any investigators. The investigators with the DPP is the police. You see, that's the problem. Like in some jurisdictions, especially some places in the states where you have the district attorney, they got their own investigators too, in addition to the police. She doesn't have investigators, and that is one of the shortcomings in our system.
Let me ask a question. Is there any role in what we are speaking about, Kimar, for the Office of the Ombudsman? Because I see from the Barbados government.bb, gov.bb website that the mission and objective of the Office of the Ombudsman are to provide quality service in an impartial, timely, and expeditious manner while investigating complaints by Barbadians or persons residing in Barbados who consider that the conduct of a government ministry, department, or statutory authority has been unreasonable, improper, inadequate, or unjust,
To
thereby
them,
ensuring protection of individual rights and liberties against bureaucratic wrongdoing and the effects of maladministration.
but to them, he will if you go to the ombudsman and make a complaint about a government agency, government department, government agency and stuff, he will investigate. But he cannot go there and see um, something is wrong. Let me go and investigate this. That's not his role. One ombudsman tried that, and he lost his pick because the next time we come up for renewal, he didn't get the job. That was Carl Ince. Remember when we had the problem with going to the vendors to the sea and all the people blocking the sea and stuff, and he went down there and started to try to do a little something. He paid for it.
But if the complaint is brought and his investigation takes him out, then is that an acceptable action?
I don't understand.
If somebody goes to him with a complaint regarding, let's say, for argument's sake, they suspect the impropriety where the whole project is concerned, is he in a position to go out and investigate it?
No, but somebody will have to say, well, look, these people were what they did affected me.
I see.
And me will not have to go to the ombudsman and make a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you are one of the people who got a house in the cracking or something, so and you will go to the ombudsman and say, well, look, these people give me a bad house. That's the only way you can get involved, as far as I see, into investigating something like this. The ombudsman is supposed to is a panacea. It's to make people believe that something can happen. You know, he has less. He has like hen's teeth. You know,
So he's another figurehead.
basically, because what happens if let's say I complain for something in the Ministry of Health, he engages the people at the Ministry of Health. He said, well, this is wrong. And they say so. The only thing he can do then is report it to Parliament. He can't enforce anything. Parliament then, when in his report to Parliament, then he will say, well, this is what happened. But you know how reports go to Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I beg that the report of the Ombudsman be laid, and that's it. And it's laid there, and that's the end of it. Nobody sees it. The Ombudsman was not intended to do any work, The Ombudsman was always intended to give people the impression that they have somebody that they can call upon. And that was all about.
Your optics.
Yeah.
Your optics. Well, guys, it's 9:51. Kimar, that has been another amazing evening. I really appreciate you going in depth into this matter with Hope, and also the sewage. Don't know where Wednesday is going to carry you now. I don't know what you'll discover between now and Wednesday, Sherlock, Kimar, Stuart Holmes. Don't know what you will discover between now and Wednesday. But we need to have some answers. And that is the whole thing. When we listen back to that, Dave, bring up that video for me again with the Deputy Prime Minister speaking to the matter of integrity legislation, whether it be the one in Parliament or anything, because when we query these things, because one of the things she says in her speech on the 5th of March was that people are asking legitimate questions. What I am seeing is that it appears that this government does not want people to ask legitimate questions. Go ahead, Dave.
We will also
this is when she was in opposition
as well to
okay, go ahead.
Debate the integrity in public life legislation, which I'm sure, Mr. Speaker, the public will be well aware has a long history, and one certainly that we are quite excited again to be able to bring to this honourable chamber, and hopefully we will see the passage of it not only in this chamber but also in the other in due course.
Give me back that one, the first few minutes of the clip at on March 5th, 2018. I want the people to hear it again. When she was speaking, and please, folk, we're not attacking, at least I am not, and I don't think Caswell, Rose, or Kimara is not attacking anybody. What we are attacking is what you have said. What you have said. And if you have said something and you do not keep your word, what do you call a person like that, Rose? You're the educator in our midst. What do you call a person who says something and does not keep their word? What do you call them?
You want me to use the term my grandmother used? A falsehood tacker.
A falsehood tacker. Could you explain
That's
for
where
us?
you ever heard that?
Could you explain?
Tacker?
Could you explain for the younger ones like us present what the normal expression is?
A falsehood is an untruth. And a taker is the Belgian word for taker. So that is someone who does not speak the truth, who speaks falsehood. Do you want me to say that word LIAR?
No, no. I don't mind if you say that they're a stranger to the truth, because in our parliamentary procedure here in the loyal opposition, we cannot express those terms according to Caswell.
No, so that's why I said a falsehood tacker, to use the words of the ancient Barbadians.
Let me show this, just a portion of this clip. I will show for the people to hear once again.
We've had a situation where this administration came to public life, telling the people of this country that they were going to introduce integrity legislation. Y'all remember that? That they were going to hold themselves accountable to the people of this country. That they were going to stamp out corruption in high places.
I want you to hold on to this statement. It's going to be really important throughout this video. Remember what she's saying: personal accountability and the stomping out of corruption from the highest levels of government.
Time comes because you know the Barbados Labour Party has come out front and we have brought a draft integrity legislation bill. We are not waiting till we get to Parliament to hold our members to account or to let you then have to talk with us to talk about whether we are putting corruption legislation in place. We have taken it on ourselves to ensure that we are going to be held accountable to the people of this country.
This was at the time member of the House of Assembly, Sania Bradshaw, on March 5, 2018 at Montgomery Pasture St. Michael, one of her campaign rallies. Without a hint of irony, in all of her righteous indignation, she stands before you today as the Deputy Prime Minister who vaingloriously declared the Barbados Labour Party is taking the charge against corruption with the Integrity in Public Life Act. I'm here to tell you, to this day, 5 years on from this very campaign rally, it is not proclaimed. It still cannot be used to hold those in positions of power accountable despite the fact that it has passed both the House and Senate. So we're asking as concerned members of the public, Deputy Prime Minister, what's the hold up? In a 30-0 majority within Parliament, what excuse does she have? What can she affirm to you is the reason for this, other than personal interest?
And that is the situation that we find ourselves in this country today, where people are asking legitimate questions about whether there is one rule for people in high.
You heard it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, straight from the horse's mouth. None of us has anything that we need to say or even add. Well, Rose, your
That horse
closing
is gray.
comments.
That horse is gray. Ready.
Rose, your closing comments is 9:57. I want to be a good boy and make sure I don't get licks from Marcia for going too far over her 10 o'clock time. So your closing comments, brief, we would beg you, and you after Kimar, and then you, Caswell, and we will then let Dave play our favorite music.
Yes, please, just to encourage ourselves to be vigilant, to keep our ears open and our eyes open and our voices loud and clear on what we see occurring here in Barbados. And let's not wait until it's sprung on us, but let us continue doing our research, listening to each other, keeping our ears to the ground, sourcing information, doing our research, so that we would have, as the Bible says, an answer, a timely answer when asked. So I would just encourage myself and all of us on the panel, as well as our loyal listeners and participants, to be watchful, be diligent, and always be in a place to protect your country and your freedom in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rose. Thank you so very much. Kimar?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Pastor Ferdinand, for having me on. Just a quick reminder of our event on the 27th of July. Our sweet couple line my fish fry to aid in proceeds towards Oswald Newton. You know, our loyal patron support on the show. So just want to encourage persons to come on out Saturday, July the 27th from 2 p.m. And we're having music, food, camaraderie, laugh, joke, and just a time of good fellowship and fun. So while still being a philanthropic, uh, you know, philanthropic exercise, we helping one of our brothers on the show. So we want to see persons come out. Um, Again, I think we really need to get serious about how taxpayers' money is distributed. Um, I think that we could do a lot better. I think hope should be a lesson, just like hardware housing was supposed to be a lesson. This $84 billion with this huge outfall, um, I have not heard much thing going on, but what I see now is that some people sending around a video with me at concert and showing now that the CV machine is working. So that is how they try to score points now. After we to to talk them out, now they're bragging, Pastor Ferdinand, that the machine is working. So I'm glad and I applaud it. So let us get the seaweed off the beach. So more of that. But thank you very much.
Yeah, agree with you wholeheartedly, sir. Agree with you wholeheartedly. But you have accomplished something. That means you have every right to represent the people of St. John. I think they should know what to do in the next election. Caswell, my friend.
Well, I don't have a lot to say. I was just hoping that. But first, let me say that Rose asked earlier if the Office of Public Sector Reform is
Was
still
still valid, yeah. Mhm.
it is functioning under another name in MISS in the ministry that that's called MISS. It's now called the Efficiency Unit. Rose by any name is still sweet. Well, that's what's happening there. What I want is just to say in closing is that Barbadians need to open their eyes and stop being treated like fools and accepting it. We have young people dying in Kenya for their rights because they feel that they're being mistreated.
Yes.
Hundreds
Yes.
are being killed in
In
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh, yes.
Because they want to stand up. Nobody asks you to go and sacrifice your life. All we want is your voice, or your presence when we march. Because our politicians fear the people. You realize when we had the biggest march that we had, they pulled back the cybercrime bill and sent it to committee. If we did not have that march and the drones overhead to count our people, they wouldn't have responded. You see, I've seen elections in Barbados won by one vote.
Oh,
Sleepy
yes.
Smith won by one vote, and Sybil Leacock won by one vote. Well, her election was overturned by the election court presided over by Sir Dennis Williams and some other judges. I can't remember the persons that I know. But there were so many flaws in that election that he said the election had to go over. So she served as the MP for one day. Go back to Parliament one day, swore in, and then the court ruled and she was sworn out. And they had another election. So every vote counts. So when I hear people telling me up to today that they're done voting and I'm voting again, you're only hurting yourself.
That's right. That's right.
You're only hurting yourself because
Let's
the
vote.
Barbados Labour Party will bring up their people. They always bring
Yes.
them out. So you have a situation where the Dems decide, well, I didn't like Varela, so I didn't vote. You see what you get? You gotta vote. Because our vote is not as sacred as what it should be, because we didn't fight and have a battle and overthrow anybody in elections or kill the king. Nothing. So ours was negotiated. And people don't have that type of passion. Whether you have that passion or not, you need to have a better Barbadian for the people you bring into this world. You have children. I have grandchildren now. I don't want my children and grandchildren to suffer. And this government is trying to ensure that my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren have to suffer, because there's no way they're going to pay back all this money in my lifetime. Yours, Freddie. Not yours, even Kimara, used less than 30. They're still going to pay it back and thing, even because what they are doing is borrowing to pay back the loan. So we are not earning. And if we have a situation where the government cannot manage, we need to throw them out. And the only way we can throw them out is when the people stand
By
up.
the vote. Yes.
And
yes.
if you don't stand up, you will suffer. You will go to an early grave because it will bother you. It will give you stress. And when you get the stress, next thing one day, the little ticker pops off and you're gone and left with wife and children and stuff because You got so much pressure and you can't take it no more. Don't think it's affecting you. It will be affecting you when you can't do anything about it, or you could choose not anything about it. The worst thing you can do. I'll give you a joke and I can leave now, right? When a few years ago, it was a while back, 3 guys that were in 3C with me, they wanted like December, January, and February. Well, that was the worst time of my life because they would say, well, March is me. And one fella said, Caswell, you realize that all those 3 fellas were the quiet fellas. And they used to bottle up everything. He said, you won't live to 100, man. You won't bottle up nothing. You know? And that's what gave me a little less fear because I figured, well, I let it out. Those fellas are bottling in it. They're young. All the stress that they held back. That's what's going to happen to you when you choose to accept this government and suffer in silence. Yeah, you do suffer. So take care of yourselves.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just one quick announcement. Some of you may not think it relevant, but I was asked to just announce it tonight. That is, you're on behalf of the Barbados Overseas Community and Friends Association. We cordially invite you to attend our commemorative emancipation service on Thursday, August 1st, 2024. Reverend Guy Hewitt will present the sermon with Canon Reverend Beverly Hunt and Reverend David Hoyt officiating as clergy. Musical performances by Bajan Voices UK were chosen to integrate with the theme of the day. The service starts at 3 p.m. Will be held at St. John the Divine Kensington Church, 92 Vassal Road, Kensington, London, SW 96JA. And this is particularly for those of you in the diaspora who are in the UK. Of course, those of you who may be traveling to the UK between now and then. Refreshments will be served on the day. Parking is available on the adjacent roads behind the church. The nearest stations are Kennington and Brixton, and buses from Camberwell and Brixton Road are 5 minutes away from the location. We hope you can attend and look forward to welcoming you as we commemorate the significant period of our history. Warm regards, Tyrone Roach. And this is from the UK diaspora, Barbados diaspora in the UK. So for those of you that are in the UK, we do have a few. As a matter of fact, Caswell, Rose, Kimar, do you know we had someone on tonight from Iceland? I couldn't believe that. A Manasseh King, I think is the name, Manasseh King, was viewing from Iceland. And I tell you, that is amazing. And you folk that are in the UK, we want to thank you for being with us, particularly because you're some 4 to 5 hours ahead of us, which means it's nearly 4 or 5 o'clock. Or 2, 3 o'clock in the UK at this time. We want to thank all of you from the loyal opposition that have been with us tonight. We trust that the show tonight has been another informative and educational one. We want to thank Rose and Kimar, Caswell, for their contributions tonight. We deeply appreciate all that you've shared. Another educational night indeed. Dave, I turn it over to you to take us out. There's been a request for all 3 songs, but I will leave that in your hands. So until Wednesday night, ladies and gentlemen, good night and God bless you.
Good night.
Now, in the name of my children and my grandchild, I want to live in a country where there's freedom of expression. I want to live in a country where no despot can feel that they should hold the destiny of my children and my grandchild in their hands. And that Mayor Motley is a menace. She's a menace because she's a despot. She's a menace because she's a despot, believes that she has a right to be a despot. She would try to be a despot with me. And I want to end by saying this. My parents sent me to school so that I should not be a boy in the yard for any despot in this country. And I will be true to them and true to my children by fighting this despotism that is taking.
Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that the suffering done. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me attack the vote and let me down. Me attack the vote and let me down. Barbados is too small for me. My pocket full, now you and job they promise me. And a and more money. You cry transparency, but that's a no for me. Promise us a better tomorrow. Tell me that the suffering done. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down. She did only want little dealing, big contracts and not corruption. Me a take the vote and let me down. Me a take the vote and let me down.
That mass nor English, English. Pretending to be good, pretending to be good, just pretending to be good. Pretending to be good, I just pretending to care about people. 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 Pretending, and I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people. And I'm pretending to be good at maths nor English. I just pretending to care about people.
Dancers, come forward, walk out. This one I got worldwide.
Just days after former government backbencher Ralph Thorne crossed the floor, he's taken the oath of office as leader of the opposition.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. Let me on the side. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Wait there, Ralph Thorne. Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest trend. Everybody know link up my friend. This one designed to be.
And more will be left over.
Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest.
Are these trips so important?
Link up my friend. This one designed to be living out.
Yes, I'm for real, member. I am for real. Don't let me talk out your business. Don't let me talk out your business. All right.
And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the die. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yes. So let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. Put me on the side. Cross the floor.
There has to be some order here.
Cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph.
The Minister of Finance is not party to this present transaction, Your Honor. Ask him to keep quiet, please. And I say to you further, Mr. Speaker, that my conscience, my location here is related to my conscience. I said it last year. It is well with my soul.
Take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide, moving with the tide. Take a wine on the right side, take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yeah. So let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. Put me on the side. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne.
That is my man, so whether he cross or in cross, he will always be there for us.
I came to a point where I had to take the decision that if my philosophical and political views do not accord with those of government in terms of its legislation, in terms of its policy, the relationship becomes untenable.
Well, good night to everyone. God bless you all. God bless you, Rose, Kemar, Caswell. God bless you in the loyal opposition, the coalition of the righteous. Good night, and God bless you all. Have a great rest.
Good night, everyone.
Party.
All right.